of you might be confused because obviously we're in person, but then I mean, look at these two guys. It's like an episode of the Hot Dads Club, which I didn't realize I was going to be a part
Did you know
of.
this was coming?
This
We
is
should
how
have expected this.
this is how it happens. This is what I do, guys. And I feel like I'm not a part of that club. I either snuck into the club, or Blake, you know, you're a gym owner. It's like those 1 week free trials. You get to test the gym, but you're not really a part. You know what I'm saying? That's how I feel right now. I'm in the presence of greatness and beauty, and they're in better shape than me. So that's how I start the podcast off. Try to make the Trav, you know, you've been on. This will be your 5th time on this podcast.
Is it 5?
Yeah. The only other person that's been on more, which is 6, is my brother Jordan, who's also here behind the camera today. We've got 2 fan favorites in the room, and then obviously Blake, new to this podcast.
Second.
Different podcast.
Oh, different.
Different podcast,
That's
yeah.
right. That's right.
So same podcast you've been on.
Oh, okay.
I didn't do a very good job prepping you guys. Same podcast you've been on, Blake. This is a new podcast for you, so
Nice.
I'm excited, man. Let's start off here. Trav, we did a Father's Day episode last year.
That's right.
We got a really good reception from that.
Yeah.
People loved it, and I thought I want to make if you're down, I want to make this like an annual thing where every year you come back.
I'm
we didn't
down,
talk about this,
man.
but you're now on the
I always enjoy
on the podcast.
Yeah.
So that being said, I wanted to mix it up a little bit from last year. I thought, hey, let's get another dad. And I know some awesome dads. I'm sure you know some awesome dads. And I'm not just saying this because you're here, Blake. The first person that came to mind was you, because you and I don't really know each other. We've had one conversation, a couple of DMs here and there, but one podcast or character comment that you did, and it was amazing. People loved that because of your story and all of that. But from what I can tell on your Instagram and all of that, like you're a dad with a massive heart. And the 3 of us have very different stories. We have very different lives. Like Blake, we can get into a little bit. You're a business owner. You have 1 son. Trav, you have 3 kids. You're
stay-at-home dad.
Okay, you say it. I didn't want to say it because I know how you feel about that. And I think
dad, bro.
super dad, exactly, super dad.
For real.
Whatever.
I have 2 little girls, 3 and 1, and so we're all kind of in different stages. But I thought this would be an awesome conversation. Plus, I knew you guys are close friends, so I thought this would be a great conversation to bring to everybody on Father's Day. So we're just gonna have a kind of a fun, relaxed conversation. I'm not gonna interview the entire time, but I'm excited. I'm not gonna lie; it feels a little weird holding the mic because I haven't held the mic in a long time.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Yeah, it's not bad, right?
Yeah.
We'll deal with it.
Help the sound.
We've done more
quality, I'm
difficult things before.
Well, yeah,
We
because
can
you.
get through this.
Yeah.
Just kind of hold it here. I don't know.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
Yeah, we'll be fine. It's all good, and people are gonna give us some grace because it's like this whole setup right now is way different than we've ever done.
Yeah.
So usually Zoom does the work for me. So we'll see how this turns out.
Yeah.
But at the very least, we'll capture the audio and it will be good.
Yeah, there you
go. Let's start with Trav. Just quickly remind everybody who you are, your family situation, who you are as a dad.
Name's Travis. I am married. Been married for 15 years, just about, and have 3 kids: 11, 8, and 6. Girl, boy. So yeah,
Awesome.
My wife. I quit my job. I used to do like landscaping for, I don't know, like 12 years, and then I ended up quitting my job about now 3 or 4 years ago. Oh, 4 years ago actually, and doing a whole stay-at-home dad thing. So it's been cool. It's been a unique transition, but it's been a huge blessing, and it's been a lot of fun.
It's awesome.
And challenging at different times too. So it's like it's unique. Yeah, it's
For
a
sure.
different thing. It's not the norm for most dads, I would say. So it's been a unique experience, but I really enjoy it too. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
Love it.
I don't think you give yourself enough credit for that because it's challenging enough, when you're working and then kind of coming home and trying to be dad or play dad. Like I've had a couple different like styles of being present for my son when, before COVID was a whole different life of like long commute, working, coming home. I'm still in my work clothes. I'm trying to do dinner, bath time, read a story.
Totally.
And like, that's super hard. And, but I don't think, I think what you do it really gracefully. Like, I think just being a dad, and like, I look up to you a lot as a dad. So I think that's
thanks.
pretty, I love seeing the stuff that you do with your kid. It inspires me to like, man, I should get my kid out to the river and like, we should go swimming and we should do all these things that you do with your kids. So I think that's it's a testament to you. I respect.
Yeah,
Thank
100%.
you, man.
I'm
I
in the same boat, man.
appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I could say the same thing about both you guys too. I mean, and even just my experience with Blake. It's funny. We've gotten, I feel like, really close during. We've always been friends. For what, like 6 years now, maybe
longer,
more.
dude,
Yeah,
'cause
probably.
I've been. So I'm almost. You said 15 years for you
You're
were
right.
married. Jen and I are almost 10 years.
Okay,
And
and
so we met. I mean, like before
you're right.
that,
Yeah, because
right?
I
Because-
think Ella was like our oldest was like a baby or like one when
Yeah.
we first started. So I guess
Yeah.
like 10 years. That's crazy. Yeah.
It's weird. It's
So-
weird thinking back, right? Like, when you
I
like sit down and actually think about it, it's
Yeah.
like, oh, that's a long time.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
long time.
But Blake and I feel like we got really close during COVID. We started running a lot together. We were doing it almost weekly, like once a week. And I don't know, we would get out on the trail and we'd have long conversations.
Yeah.
And it was really cool. I'd always come back and like just be in a good mood, talking with Mel. Like, man, like it was just life giving always after we'd get done with a run, because we would bounce different struggles that we'd be dealing with, or even good things too. So
Yeah.
we've shared a lot,
Yeah,
like
sure.
personal stuff, which has been really cool. I think it's rare, I think, for guys to be able to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
And, so yeah, it's been a cool relationship, cool bond that we've had. But second, also what you were saying about just being a good dad and the struggles, like you work full time and then you have to come home and be a good husband and then be a good dad too. Like that's tough work. So
Yeah.
I applaud that as well too. So
For sure.
it's tough.
Yeah, I want to address the running thing real quick, because
Yeah.
at one point during this whole COVID thing, you had invited me, I think, a couple times to go out and run. I'm not gonna lie, part of me, I'm like, that'd be cool, and then I thought, well, but what if Blake's waiting there? Like what if Blake's like in the van, just pops out and sneaks up on me? Because Trav's like, yeah, we'll do a slow run. I'm like, okay, and then
Yeah.
Blake's like, no, we're not. We're gonna push you, buddy. Like, so there was a little fear there when I saw those runs, but
Yeah.
I tried to mention that.
Well, there's one run that we did in particular, and this was new when Travis, probably early on, and I was seeing Travis doing this training at the time. You were preparing for half Ironman and then an Ironman, and I was like watching your training and going like, I've never really been an endurance type athlete.
Yeah.
Never.
Right.
And it actually wasn't really even necessarily something I was interested in. My mom was a triathlete like most of her life, so I got to watch my mom doing tries and running and swimming and biking, and
Yeah.
and so I don't even remember. I think you were doing a 10-miler or something, and I just hit you up like, "Can I come with you?" And you were like, "Yeah, like, do you run?" Like, I don't know what you were thinking, so maybe you could tell me that. I think, but you just said yes.
Yeah,
You didn't say
yeah.
anything weird. You were
Well,
like, "Yeah."
Every now and then you would run. You would be like running with Isaiah, like pushing him in a stroller when he was
yeah,
little,
yeah,
and
yeah.
he'd be like, you do like maybe 5 miles, but just doing it super fast with a stroller. And I'm like, this guy's a freaking monster. Like he's a freak. Like he's not
100%.
normal.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely
I've
not.
always told him that. Yeah. The first time, or like the we did one run. We had done like maybe, I don't know, 3 10-mile runs. That was kind of like what we were hitting for every time we would go
Yeah.
out and run. And we'd start like super early, like 5:30 in the morning. We're running in the dark most of the time. And this was like in the wintertime, I guess. But I had one. I was like, yeah. He was like, are we gonna run this week? And I was like, dude, I got like an 18-mile run. Like, I don't think you're gonna. You could do for like part of it if you want. Like just. and so we start running, and sure enough, like I'm like, dude, you're not normal. Like, who does this? Like, first
Yeah.
of all, a guy his size, like, that's not typical to be like a good running body. You
Right.
know, like it's
Yeah.
harder on.
Built for power, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
he's like big frame, tall.
Right.
Not like a thin, lean runner. Like,
Right.
super muscular, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, not a runner's build.
Yeah.
And anyways, yeah, we're doing this 18-mile run, and in the middle of it, I'm like, dude, you're not normal. Like, nobody just gets up and can run 18 miles like this. And I didn't know how he was gonna feel, ending the run, and we were trying to keep like an 8-minute pace around there, 8 to 8:30, I think, just kind of like a mild pace, and then we come down to the last 2 miles. And he just starts picking it up. Like he's not going any slower. He starts picking it up faster. And I'm like, gosh, man, this guy is like he's like not normal,
That was
right?
an epic run.
Yeah.
Because it was almost the last 3 miles. It was like
Yeah.
16, 17, and 18.
Yeah.
We ran like 6:30.
Yeah, we're just
Jeez.
flying. And I was
All right.
struggling to keep up with him. And I was the guy that like, this is what I do, not what he does.
Yeah.
It was fun.
And
That's
so,
why I didn't join you for those runs. That's what I
yeah,
was worried
yeah.
about. I was like, I'm not getting sniped by this.
I
That's
love how
awesome.
he says like me just pop out of the bushes. Like I'm like, hey guys,
I'm here.
That's
let's
not a
do
joke.
this.
That's how I saw it in my head. I'm
Yeah.
like, I'd be like looking around, like he's
Yeah,
here somewhere. I
yeah.
know it. Even if it was like midway through the run, you just like hop out off the trail. I'm like, that's where I turn around and like, you guys have fun.
Yeah.
No, it's awesome. I love the connection there. Obviously,
Yeah.
this is called Connectable, and so connecting with people, connecting with our audience, like seeing how people connect with each other. I love that you guys used exercise to connect with each other. I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
The one thing I want to add too is because like I agree that we definitely got closer on those runs, and I think the goal of those long runs, right, is to build on some of our endurance. So we're supposed to be at kind of a conversational pace,
Mhm.
right? So what was so cool about those runs is, like he said, we would talk about business, finances, faith, our kids.
Mhm.
Like these are like 2 hours, or
Yeah.
2 hours when we're
Yeah.
out there with each other, and we're hitting on like all kinds of different topics. I mean, what was going on with the economy, and like what was going on at church, and so those were really good days for us. I think for me, like just to be able to be outside and be in nature. I think there's like some peace in that, right? Like
Yeah.
Sure.
just being along the river and being on the trail, and then two, another male father, husband who I respect,
Yeah.
and then getting able to share like kind of crazy life stuff. Like COVID was
Right.
kind of weird, right?
Yeah,
Every
yeah.
week it was a new
Yeah.
thing, a
Right.
new issue, a new political thing, like
Yeah.
Sure.
even things coming up with kids, right? So it was I think we'll look back on that and
Yeah.
go like, man, that was a cool like couple years where we
Yeah.
were doing this
Yeah.
and like becoming a little bit closer. So I thought it was great.
Yeah.
Well, it's such a
I miss it a little bit.
Yeah,
We're both kind
yeah.
of hurt. Like you
Yeah.
got a
Yeah.
calf, I got an ankle, or
I know. Too much running, I
Yeah.
guess.
I'm doing okay, guys. I don't want to brag, but my body feels pretty good. I'm not in the same shape you guys are, but I feel really good. So
okay, good.
I have that one thing over you guys.
Good.
But no, that's a cool thing. And Trav, last time I was listening to our podcast last time, and one of the things we talked about was exercise and how exercise helps us
Yeah.
when it comes to our marriages, when it comes to dealing with our families and our kids. And if I remember correctly, you guys were doing those pretty early in the morning, right? You
Yeah.
guys would do those runs, and then you have the whole rest of that day with your families. And I imagine that's based on just the conversations you guys were having, the perspectives you guys were giving each other, and just getting all of that out of your system in the morning. That
Right.
had to have been a benefit for your families, right? And how you interacted with them.
Yeah, I would definitely say, I think I think as like men, I think it's common to like have to feel like it's hard to be emotional. One as a man, it's hard to share different struggles that you have, and unless you have like a really tight connect group, which I think a lot of men don't. They have good friends, but I don't know like how close those friendships are, or how comfortable they feel, sharing things that they're dealing with. And I've had tons of really good friends, but I guess being able to feel comfortable around certain friendships is easier than others, I guess. And Blake has always been that for me. And I don't know, it's it was helpful for sure. Being able to talk and like it was a rough season that my wife and I were dealing with the last couple years, like through all the the political stuff. We've talked about it on the podcast
Yeah.
before too, and
Yeah.
just not seeing things eye to eye, and like bouncing things off Blake where he would help me even understand like her thought process better, and I would come back and be like, Blake actually had a similar perspective and helped me see it better, and explained it differently to me, and so I don't know, definitely was a huge benefit for my soul and for like the way I treated my family and my patience and peace in my life. So
Yeah.
it was a big blessing.
I agree, and,
Yeah.
and something else I've been thinking about lately that I think is cool is I was raised, like I said, my mom at a really young age. We grew up. Well, I kind of grew up in like Rancho Cordova, like not far from here.
Sure.
And I remember my mom and I lived in a little apartment complex right off of Sunrise in Coloma, like behind. It used to be an Albertsons, and then it was a 24-hour,
Yep.
and now they've closed that 24 hours. So that apartment complex right behind there, is where I live with my mom, just the two of us. And I remember at a really young age, she would get up in the morning to go on a run, and I would follow her on my little bike. And
That's
she's
awesome.
like, I would go 3, 4, 5 miles early in the morning, and it'd be
Yeah.
cold. And she'd tell me like, you could stay and sleep.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think there's also something about like
Yeah.
you and I getting together that our kids get to see as an example, whether or not
Totally.
they're like awake
Yeah.
to see it, but
Hey.
they're like, yeah, I remember my dad would get up and
Right.
exercise, and like that is healthy, and that is an example. Like I've been thinking
Totally.
about that a lot with my son, like
For sure.
that he sees me get up in the morning and go and do something physical
Yeah.
with someone, and I think that's cool. Like I guess as a dad, you start to think about those things more
Oh,
Yeah.
100%.
than you ever did before, right? Like I
Totally.
never
Oh, yeah.
thought about that before
Yeah.
ever, and now I'm like starting to think about like, okay, well, what does this look like through his eyes?
Right.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So
it's
anyway,
good.
I think that's a cool thing.
No, 100%. I agree. And it's the cool thing about that too. It's not like, hey, dad went to go do a marathon, right? This one-time event. He's seen you wake up every morning, exercise, put in the work, and it's a normal thing. So he's not gonna think, oh yeah, I guess sometimes my dad exercises. He's not gonna think about it. He's just gonna do it.
It is
Yeah.
life.
It's how life
It
goes.
is how life should be lived, right?
Yeah, 100%.
And I believe that firmly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
me
love
too.
it. Hey, so before we get too far, because we just jumped in the conversation,
Yeah.
which I love.
Yeah.
Blake, man, tell
I
us.
told you that would happen.
I know. I knew. I told my wife.
We've
I
done
said,
this for hours.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
my wife's like, "What time you gonna be home?"
yeah.
Don't know.
Yeah.
Don't know. Because she knows when I hop on with Trav, it's like it's gonna be a long.
Talk.
I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, it'll be like an hour. She's like, okay, cool. I'll see you in 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's funny because we're like most people would say we're quiet people. Like,
Yeah.
not a lot to, I don't know. I don't state my opinion or talk very much in general when I'm with people, but
Yeah.
the two of us get together, we talk a lot. And
Yeah. 100%. My brother's looking right now. He's like,
Add me in
Josh
there.
doesn't shut up.
yeah.
It's around
okay.
like out in like public. I'm pretty quiet. But
Yeah.
with people I'm close with and know, he's like,
Yeah, you
this
like
dude
to
doesn't shut up.
chat it
I
up.
want to say this too. Jordan mentioned this the other day. Actually, last night when we were getting ready for this, he's like, because I was joking. He's like, obviously, you guys look a certain way and I look a certain way, and you guys are better looking. I'm fine with it. I feel comfortable. I'm a confident person, and I can say that. But he's like, yeah, it's gonna be like you're interviewing 2 dudes from Top Gun. Are you guys pilots?
Okay.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
We should have wore some aviators.
Just go play some sand volleyball or something.
Yeah.
You know?
I will not be there. I look like the journalist that can't do anything and just like has to interview you guys. So that was his joke. I'm like, all right,
That's
I
good.
appreciate it. It makes
Good
me
one, Jordan.
feel ugly,
Yeah.
but yeah. So anyway, sorry, man. So Blake, tell us a little bit about yourself, because like I said, I did not prep you enough, and I didn't realize that you didn't know we had a separate podcast.
Yeah.
This one's not sports related; it's just kind of everyday life.
Awesome.
So for anybody who doesn't know, one, I would say go back to Character Combine and find Blake's episode because he has an incredible story, which I would love to have you on here again to kind of go more into
Sure.
that. But tell us a little bit about your life, your family, what you do. Just give us a little background.
Yeah, so my name is Blake. I am coming up on 38 years old, which is crazy. It's feeling like we're getting closer to 40 here. So I kind of hard where to start. So my wife and I started a fitness. We opened a fitness franchise concept 4 years ago now, actually, which is crazy. It's gone
Yeah,
by
it
so
is
fast.
crazy.
So.
Yeah.
4 years ago, we're a sort of a boxing boutique kind of studio design concept that's honestly a blast. And
My co-host loves it. Deb McCollum, my
loves
co-host,
it.
yeah,
She's
loves
there
it.
all the time,
Yep.
and love to see her. Again, super. It's one of those workouts that you can't help but like leave with just a huge smile on your face, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a blast. So imagine, like a cycling studio is a kind of cycling boxed into like with high energy music and an instructor. Now imagine that for boxing, right? You got like 35 heavy bags. You have an instructor that's there in the center, sort of teaching you the class, and it's a lot of fun. So my wife and I did that 4 years ago. I have been with a company. We're actually the largest franchisor of automotive service brands. So car washing, oil changing, service and repair, collision. And so I'm a vice president for that company. I've been there 12 years.
Wow.
Or almost 12 years. Sorry, I think it'll be 12 years in September. And married almost 10 years, coming up on 10 in November. And then we have a son, and he is 5.
5, awesome.
And man, like all these cliche things that your parents tell you and that you hear when you're younger about like just wait till you become a dad and everything, things like, well, everything changes once you become a parent, and it's a love that you could never understand until it happens to you.
Yeah.
Like all those things are totally true,
Sure.
and I am obsessed with my son. Like I just I can't imagine anything being different. Like, I don't know how to say it. I was actually recently at in San Diego. I was at a big conference for a company called ATI. They're the Automotive Training Institute, and they have about 1,800 shop owners that participate. And it was a big convention, and there was a speaker. Like the keynote speaker was going on, and he was giving this talk about, I don't remember what it was. It was like 6 life principles or something, like some pep talk.
Right.
And he got to this section at the end where he was kind of trying to get the audience to really dig into like what you really want. Like what, if you sat there and tried to kind of quiet your mind from the things that you think you want, and you tried to really boil down to the core of like, what do you really want out of life? Like, take the house and cars and whatever, take that stuff out of it. And I just kept coming back to this thing of like, I just want my son to be proud of me. Like, I just want,
Yeah, for sure.
I just, if I really boil it down, all the things that I do and how I try to live and who I want to be for him, like, I just want my son to look back. And I feel like if he looks back and goes like, man, my dad was good, then like, I'm good with that.
Totally.
And
Yeah.
I that was what I just kept coming to. And that happened recently.
That's really good.
And I figured I would, share. So
Oh,
yeah,
that's good,
that's
I'm
man.
me.
glad you did, because I think it's a very simple thing, right? Like, it's a very simple thought, but it's a powerful thought. And I think there's probably a lot of people, and I like this one. I don't like to make broad statements, but I feel pretty comfortable. And tell me if you guys agree. I think there's a lot of dads. We're talking about specifically dads that get so wrapped up in the day to day, the 9 to 5,
Yeah.
all the stresses of life, the challenges, and you don't take the time to think about those things. And those are one of those things that when you get, I'm still new to this whole thing. My oldest is 3.5, so I still have a long ways to go. But you hear people all the time that have been parents for a long time. They look back, it's like, man, I wish I would have done this, this, and this differently, or I wish I would have looked at it from a different perspective. And so I think especially if you're a younger dad with young kids, if you can get that perspective now, I don't think you're gonna have as many regrets down the road. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that's a really powerful thought that I think a lot of people could benefit from.
Well, and Jordan Peterson says that, I don't know if you listen to any of his stuff. I find him to be really interesting, but he says, there's this quote that's going around of him, like, you only have young kids
Right.
for like 4 years.
Yeah.
Right. And like, and you can't get it back.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's a really cool time. And sometimes it's frustrating.
Yeah.
And it tests your patience.
Yeah.
And, you repeat yourself a lot.
Totally. Totally.
Right. And all these types of things. But if you really like look at, the joy that is there, it kind of helps you to reset. Like you said, it's so easy to get focused on the grind and all the things that we have to do as men and husbands and fathers. But yeah, it's good. It was a good reminder for me to like, all right, if I can just kind of keep this as the center,
Right.
I'll be all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a great clip, and it has been going around. And now when I hear it, I turn it off because I'm like, I'm gonna cry.
Yeah.
I'm like at a restaurant or at work. I'm like, oh, here come the tears.
Dude,
Can't
I'm
do it.
already a crier.
Yeah.
Like before being a dad.
Me
Yeah.
too, bro.
And now, like every movie, doesn't matter what, if there's a father-son relationship in that movie, I'm crying. Like, it's a given.
Wait, okay, so what's the first movie that comes to mind that got you, or that will get you?
Oh man.
Because I'll tell you for me, I realized that like this is gonna be a problem because before my daughter was born, my wife and I, it was like maybe a month before she was born, my first daughter. My wife and I went to go see Creed 2, and there's a scene in that where they have a baby, right? And the daughter has a hearing issue, just like Creed's wife in that movie. And so there's a moment where he's in the gym, the boxing gym, and the baby's just crying, and he's just like looking at the sky, like, I don't know what to do. And he just like starts crying. I'm like, oh, I don't even have a kid yet, but I'm like, I'm not ready to cry in the theater.
Yeah.
And so I remember that was one
man.
of the first times I realized like, oh, it's gonna be a problem because I'm
Yeah.
gonna do. And now it is like anytime I see a commercial, movie, anything like that. So for me, that's the first movie that comes to mind when I think about that. Like, it will get me too.
Yeah.
But do you have one where it's like, oof,
I don't know why I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah.
There's been some recently, or one that I saw recently, but I'm not. I have a horrible memory.
I
for
deal with that.
movies.
I mean, I'm dealing with that too. Like, we've gone to a handful of movies recently, and like I'll cry in the most random ones. Like, man, I think I was crying. Like, I teared up in like, I don't know. I remember I saw Sonic 2 recently, and I can't remember if I teared up in that at some point. But I like if my kids see me, they're like, "Are you crying?" I'm like, "No." Like, I
Just
was
judging
yawning.
you.
Yeah.
It's the worst, man.
That's funny. It will hit me sometimes too. Like there was the other day where there's certain phrases that my daughter says, and if she says it at the wrong time or I guess at the right time, I'll be like making dinner, like, all right. It's like it's the onions. My wife's like, there's no onions in this recipe. Like, what are you talking about? And it's like, oh, and then I start losing. I'm like, I don't know what it was, but just something like sometimes the things they say or the things they do, it's like, this is not gonna last. Like you said, this is not gonna last forever.
Yeah.
And so it just hits me sometimes. So
It does,
yeah, I
man,
tell
me
people like
too.
you'll see me cry. I'm a big baby. Yeah.
I'm
with
okay
you on
with
that.
it.
I'm cool with it too.
Same.
I'm totally okay with it.
Yeah.
Well, look at me, man. You're a beast. Who's gonna say anything to you?
It's true that, man.
Me, this. He's like,
if,
of
if
course.
Blake cried in front of me, I'd feel so good.
I'm such a. I'll cry. It'll
I would
happen.
probably cry just to be with you.
It'll happen.
Yeah.
You know, like,
It'll
I'm
happen.
too
Start
scared.
crying, I'm crying, man.
I'm not even sad. It's just like, look at him. He scares me. I'll cry too, man. I got you. They expect it from me. Like, look at me.
good.
They're like, yeah, of course he cried.
That's good.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on it. And maybe it'll maybe
Yeah.
come to me.
There was
before.
a commercial. I was at Dignity Health. Man, it messed me up. Yeah, you know, Dignity
That's
Health.
like in Dumb and Dumber when they're laying on the bed at the in the hotel. Do you remember that? And
Yeah,
it's like some like stupid commercial, and he's like crying. Yeah.
That's what it feels
Never
like.
know
Yeah.
it's gonna hit you, man.
Yeah, it was there's one, and like I said, I don't know if it was Dignity Health, but where the dad is shaving his head
Oh yeah.
because
the
I'm like,
cancer. Yeah.
I'll turn
Yeah,
the TV off.
yeah.
I'll leave the room. It's like
I got you.
Rachel knows now too. She's like, oh, why'd he go? Oh, that's why he left. It's that commercial. She's the same way though. Like there's times where we'll both just start crying watching TV shows. But like I think it's a good thing. Like you said, I don't think
Kids, man.
I've never had a problem with it. Partially because of how I was raised. That was something that was never we were never made made to feel ashamed about that.
Right.
It's like, hey, just do it.
Yeah.
It's all good. And I think that's a healthy thing. And I think more guys could probably do that. I also think that a lot of guys, it happens when a lot of guys become dads. I think they try to fight it, but I think
Yeah.
there's just more emotional things that come up for them.
For sure.
And like I said, I always feel like that's a good thing.
Yeah.
It's not always easy to deal with that stuff. I think it's a healthy thing for that stuff to come out.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
We're taught to be more tough and like not share our emotions, like kind of like I was saying. at
Like
the
you were saying,
beginning.
yeah, 100%.
And yeah, it's I don't know, any time that I've been able to I don't know, share emotions or have other friends do it, it always feels like it creates a better, stronger bond and
Sure.
yeah, it just feels more real than just surfacey stuff, I guess sometimes.
I was a little off topic, but I was always a super emotional athlete. I know
Oh,
this
yeah.
we're not talking about athletes, but I
No.
remember being a kid and being in high school or even in Pop Warner sports, and I played quarterback and or was always some captain or some sort of leader
Yeah.
on the team, and I would get super emotional during sports, like if we were losing or if we lost the game,
Yeah.
and was never afraid to cry and just kind of
Yeah.
let it out. And I feel like it helped the rest of the team. Like actually, we're okay. Like all right, this,
Yeah.
maybe it gave them like permission to be emotional too. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, it's good.
Well, that's why I think these conversations are important. I mean, our audience, this is not, I mean, we're not Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
It's not that big of a podcast,
Yeah.
not even close. But the people who do listen, I think this is a good conversation to have because, like you said, it almost does give, maybe someone's listening right now and they're like, I struggle with that a little bit. And they hear, guys like you that are saying, no, like this is something I feel on a normal basis.
Yeah.
Right.
Like you said, it almost gives someone else permission,
Yeah.
even if they never meet you guys. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, this
Yeah.
is okay. And I think, like my thought too is, and Trav, we talked about this last time, and everybody, I'm talking to you guys. I apologize. I'm gonna rant about this again because I feel really passionate about this. I did this last week, and so it's gonna happen again. But the idea of like a lazy dad, like sometimes when I do stuff, Trav, I think you too, and I'm sure Blake. Obviously, I do it. The things I do, the way I play with my kids, the way I treat my kids, I do it because I want to help raise them the right way. I want to help them develop the right way. But there are times when you're in public, not that you put on for a show, but I'm hoping that the way I live inspires someone else. So maybe if they're struggling with something, they can see it and say, okay, this guy struggles too. Or maybe they're lazy. Like I have an issue with lazy dads. Like there's guys, and we've talked about this before, where they're at the park on their phone, not even paying attention to their kids. You go to someone's house and they're watching the game. We all love sports. They're watching the game, and the kids like tugging on their shirt, trying to get their attention, not even paying attention.
Yeah.
I'm like, for me personally, it's none of my business. But like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like you're missing moments that are gonna be so
Opportunities.
crucial for that kid's life.
Yeah.
Like I said, I did like a 10-minute rant the other day.
Yeah.
But like that bothers me
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
another dad because I feel like that kid deserves better.
Yeah.
sure.
Now again, it's none of my business. I have to handle my own two daughters and make sure that I'm showing them all the love and support that I can. But when you have dads that are just like, and I get, like you said, like we've said, there's stresses of life that come up, and
Sure.
none of
there's
us are
gonna be
none of
those
us are
moments.
perfect.
Yeah.
I've watched the game, I've played on my phone, but like
Yeah.
I try my very best not to do those things. I don't want to get to the end of the road when they're 18, graduating high school, and thinking I missed so many
Yeah.
opportunities. So like I don't know how you guys feel about that, but that drives me. It's a pet peeve of mine. It drives me
Me
nuts.
too, man.
Drives me nuts.
You have to be intentional about it.
Yeah.
For sure. Like you were saying, like there's gonna be those times when, things you had a bad day or rough day, and
Sure.
you do just need to chill and watch the game and not,
Yeah.
be distracted. And like I still have those moments for sure.
Yeah.
But I think I'm very intentional about it, and it's constantly on my mind. Like,
Yeah.
do I want this to be my one break right now where I say yes?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'll give myself that break every now and then.
Sure.
But I'm 90% of the time I'm very intentional about, hey, if they come in and ask me to go play with them, I'm gonna say yes.
Yeah.
Most of the time. My wife gets mad at me sometimes. She's like, you don't have to say yes. Like,
Yeah.
you can chill. Like let them be creative and play on their own kind of thing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
which I do. I think there's a healthy balance there for sure.
Sure.
But I'm very intentional about always saying yes if I can.
Yeah.
But there's also those moments that you need a break. But
I don't know if you guys agree with this too, but I've also found that I sometimes find or have energy that I maybe wouldn't have had before.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna give an example and see if this resonates. But leading, and you're kind of in the middle of it right now, right? Because you have one that's really young. How old is your youngest?
So 3.5 and 1.
Okay, so in the early phases, this idea of getting up in the middle of the night to change a diaper is
Yeah.
like, what?
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
before having kids.
Yeah.
right.
And then when it happens, do you like I found that I just have it's not as much of an annoyance or a bother as my perception was, or like you just sort of find the energy to get up and do it, and it's not that big of a deal, and you're like, all right,
Yeah.
change the diaper or whatever. Like so anyway, I guess what I'm trying to articulate is that I've also found that in being a dad, I find an energy that I didn't, maybe think or know was there. Now, yeah, sometimes you want to check out and do that thing, but
Sure.
if we go to the park, I'm the park dad. Like,
yeah. We talked
there's
about
videos
this.
all
Yeah.
like I'm like this was not too long ago at Ashton Park. There's tons of kids there, and no one's, none of the they're all sitting on their phones, and I got all the kids together, and we were doing duck duck goose. We did a huge game of tag. I had like 40 kids. Remember that video? It was on my wife.
That's
My
wild.
wife walked up to the park just to get exercise.
Yeah.
And she's recording me running around like a maniac with like 40 kids chasing me around.
Yeah.
So anyway, I guess like I wouldn't have guessed that I would have had the energy to do that
Sure.
before becoming a dad. So I think
Right.
yeah, sometimes you want to break and to chill, but I also think that I've found the ability or desire to do things that I wouldn't have otherwise had.
100%.
Just because of
100%.
because of my kid, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's like we've all played sports to a certain extent, and there is that thing that you're able to dig a little deeper, right? Whether you're in the weight room, on the field, during practice, that you can dig a little deeper. It's the whole David Goggins thing, right? Like the whatever 80-20, whatever the percentage is, like you've only tapped into a part of like how far you can actually go and push yourself.
Right.
And I think it's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's a little different. It's not always a physical thing. It's
Yeah.
sometimes a mental thing. But I
Yeah.
think we do have that. We find that reserve of energy with the kids when you really care. And I'm gonna tell you this, man. I love the story about you playing with 40 kids and just basically running a daycare.
it was crazy. And like 2 parents came up and thanked me after. They were like, "Hey, thanks for like." They probably felt a little guilty.
Yeah.
That's
They
it.
came
That's
up
the
and
part.
were
I'm like,
"Hey,
Challenge
thanks for
them,
playing with
man.
our kids." I'm like,
Yeah.
exactly.
Someone's gotta do
You
it.
challenge them, but see, that makes me
Yeah.
mad too. It's like I love what you did, but it makes me mad. Like there's other people. There's some of those kids who are gonna walk away from that park like, man, that dude Blake. I had an awesome time with that guy.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
gonna mention their dad.
Yeah.
That whole concept drives me nuts because they should be. It's awesome that you play with them, but it's like there's some other clown that's like,
Yeah.
oh, cool, that guy
Yeah.
played with my kids.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
hey man, that dude shouldn't be stepping into your
I'm the
role.
lava monster,
Yeah.
like always.
Yeah.
At the park.
Yeah.
Sometimes I got to be like, son, I can't do lava monster right now.
Yeah.
Can we do something else? Because
Yeah,
I'm a
yeah,
little
yeah.
spent.
Yeah. Well, you're gonna knock yourself out one of those days, like going
Yeah.
under the bars.
Totally.
You're a big guy. It's dangerous. I have to
Yeah.
watch myself too.
100%
Yeah.
dangerous.
Yeah. No, it's an
Or
interesting.
break it.
Yeah,
I want to
yeah,
break
yeah.
the playset.
That's
somehow,
true, too.
I'm a little too heavy to be
Too
jumping.
strong.
Yeah.
I don't have that problem.
Heavy,
Yeah.
not strong.
No,
Heavy.
heavy.
Yeah.
No, it's an interesting thing, and it does reveal a lot about us. Like I've always said, and sorry, man, I keep referring to the last episode we did because I just listened to it today to make sure I didn't
Yeah.
go over too many of the same topics. But I've always said I feel like one of my best attributes as a human being is my patience. Like I'm a pretty patient
Right.
person, very laid back. But my kids have changed that a little bit. Like they're like, yeah, you're not as patient as you thought, pops. And so it's been interesting because now I've had to learn it's almost like an athlete who's just really talented and can just get away with their talent. And that's what it felt like for me. It's like I've always been patient,
Yeah.
and then you get into the real game. It's like, oh, you know what? I need to work on this a little bit because
Yeah.
I'm not as patient as I thought I was. And so it's been a really interesting thing for me to learn that about myself. So obviously we learn a lot about ourselves when we have kids, but what are some of the things that you guys have maybe like? What are some of the things that stick out? They're like, okay, once I had kids, once I had multiple kids, whatever it may be, this is kind of the thing that I really, really learned about myself, and it was interesting.
We go first.
Yeah.
All right. I think it's funny that you mentioned that because I literally have just been like dealing with that internally with myself. Like I would consider myself a pretty patient person, and I think my wife would say the same before we had kids. But then when we had kids, like I found myself like way overreacting at different times. You know, where like I'm yelling at them, and I'm like, why am I afterwards? I'm like, why did I yell at them? Like that was so stupid of me to yell at them. It didn't help the situation. It probably just made it worse. They didn't learn anything from it. Like, and so I think actually like the past like couple weeks I've been really challenged. I saw something I think on Instagram talking about like where dads that yell, it actually says more something about them than it does, you know, what their kids are actually doing. And you know, it's actually a issue that you have to deal with internally, and it's not your kid's fault that you're yelling at them. It's your fault, kind of thing. So I think I've personally been really challenged with that lately. When you have 3 kids, and now my daughter's like, she like stumps me in arguments nowadays. I'm like, what? Like she's like smart. She can argue. Like she's got her mom's gift where she can argue, like
That's
win
awesome.
every battle.
Yeah.
And so I'll just get mad and yell at her. And so yeah, no, and even with my boys, I do the same thing. But I've really been challenged lately not to do that, and just like be firm on your consequences, and you know, just being able to talk and communicate that way more so than yelling. And I think it's been helpful for me, and even I notice a difference in my kids too, and how they respond to it, and just being, you know, firm on your consequence and sticking through with consequences because those are necessary. But just being able to do that unemotionally is definitely better, and it's been a benefit to me too, which I think that's one thing that I've noticed lately. And I actually made like an Instagram post. I think my last post was about that. Like I took my boys to the lake and played with them the whole day, and there was times when I had to get on them for not listening and whatnot, but I just was like, I'm not gonna yell at them today. Like that was a challenge to myself, and ever since then I've literally, it comes in my mind, I'm like, not yelling today, not gonna do it. So I think for me that's been a challenge that I've had, and something that I knew I needed to work on for myself too. So.
Right.
That's really good. Trav, I think I wouldn't say that I wouldn't describe myself as being a patient person.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily say that it's like a weakness.
Yeah.
But it's not how I would describe myself. I think I'm pretty like I'm a doer, by nature, and so sometimes patience isn't my strongest thing, and I like to kind of keep a schedule, and I'm a little bit of creature of habit, although like not necessarily with like when I'm doing things, but like I do a lot of the same things because it serves me. And so I think I would say I've been really challenged in that with also having a son who is very independent, who is very sure of himself and confident and extroverted. It's been really a challenge for me. And so I like that you said that, Trav, like I'm not going to yell today. Because it's so funny how easy it is to yell when you're like, dude, I've asked you 4 times to grab your shoes. Like, I'm going to lose it. Right. Totally. And so that's a really good thing to set out to, because I don't want to be the yelling dad. You know, like I don't want to be known as the yelling dad to him or in his mind. So that's really good. I think I've definitely been challenged in that and recognize when I'm doing it. And it's also hard sometimes to like not feel justified. Like, yeah, no, dude, how many times? Like, you know,
it's on you.
But at the same time, like, you're right. It's not the right way to communicate. It's not the most productive. So, but that's good. That's my takeaway so far is like, I'm not going to yell today.
That's right. You have to wake up and tell yourself.
Like, hey, I'm going to...
You'll catch it.
I'll catch myself. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. And yeah, it's not easy, is it? It's
No,
like,
it's not. Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like even
You
when
can
you
tell yourself that. It's still not easy.
yeah, it's still not, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good thing to keep in mind. And like you were saying, Blake, um, it's good to keep that perspective. Like I don't want him to see me this way. I don't want him to go through life and then just all of a sudden again have this perception of me become the norm for him, where it's like even if it's not true all the time, if it becomes normal enough, it's like oh
Yeah.
yeah, this is what my dad does, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
it's not the best thing. And I remember my mom said this multiple times, and it's always stuck with me. She said it's interesting, and it's like the greatest compliment I've ever gotten from her. She's like, when I look at your kids, when I look at my grandkids, she's like, you can tell they're happy. They feel comfortable in their house. They feel comfortable with you guys. They seem like they're just happy kids. She's like, I can go to other places and you see the kids are happy. And you can just tell that they're coming from good homes. She's like, the thing that breaks my heart is when you're at the grocery store or you're somewhere else and you see kids that aren't happy, because you can just tell on their face. It just shows that there's something more there, whether it's because of the parents or maybe a lack of parents or whatever the situation is. There's something there that your kids have in their life that kid over there doesn't.
Right.
And I can say this about both of you guys. Like I said, Trav, I've been around your kids a little bit. Blake, I've never met your son, but I see the pictures on Instagram. And to me, even though it's social media, I can tell by both of your kids that they're incredibly happy and that they love you guys. They love your wives. Like they're just happy kids. You can tell they have good lives and they're cared for. And I think that's like just that alone, that expression on their face or just that joy that comes out of them is probably like the greatest testament to you guys as parents, that you can see that. According to my mom, and she's pretty smart. So
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
I want to, we talk about COVID, right?
Sure.
I don't want to talk about COVID, but I want to share something that I feel like has been an incredible positive in my family's life, and one of the ways that I've tried to look at what the last 2 years have been like, and as a business owner, and even as a professional with employees, right, that had to make some really hard decisions, and one of the things that has been incredible or was incredible is we all went and worked from home, and naturally, and Trav, I'm sure you feel this sometimes too, like I'm sure there are times when you've had the kids all day and like you kind of need to like tap Mel in, like, hey, I just need to go like on a run or on a ride, like I need a break.
Yeah, for
right.
sure.
And maybe that break is just because you need some you time, or maybe it's because that you're not able to give them your best. Right. And so one of the things I think that was so great for COVID, wife and I are both at home, right? We're both working full time. And so we were able to really ham and egg each other really well, because I'm not doing this crazy commute and getting home late. And then she's had him all day long. And then when I get home, she's like, I'm out, right? We were able to really, be present for him at 3, 4, 5, at a really critical age. And I feel like it was, it was awesome for developing a relationship with him as a father. But he got the best of us most of the time. You know what I mean? Which was really cool, because we were able to really like, and so, man, COVID was awful, right? And was really challenging and tragic for a lot of people that lost lives and family members and all that stuff and businesses. But in my household, we sort of, Jen and I talk about it a lot, and we're like, yeah, it was actually really cool that we got to give our son the best of us. During that
for those
time.
years of his life.
For like really critical development years. And so I know that, and you kind of knew what my work schedule was like before that.
Nuts,
like I was leaving at 5 a.m. I take a commuter train to the Bay Area. I had a car there, hop in a car, drive to the office. I'm working all day, and then I'm taking a 5 o'clock train home, getting home at 6:30. Right. So like, it's clear that my relationship with my son is completely different than it would have been if I was still doing that type of work schedule.
Sure.
So, try and this is me finding some gratitude in a really challenging time and getting to be his dad. So that's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's really good. A couple of thoughts about that, but first of all, why are you here with that kind of commute? Like when you did that first podcast with us on Character Combine, you were kind of in the middle of that, or I guess maybe not at that point, but like, why'd you even do that podcast? You should be like, no, bro, I got too much to do. Yeah,
Blake maximizes his days, man.
I guess so.
Look, I part of my recovery, right? So just for the audience, I'm a recovering addict alcoholic. I've been sober 13 years, just celebrated 13 years in January.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
And
man.
like part of that for me is this idea that the 12 step, it's an AA, right? It's a 12-step program. And, for those of you that maybe have some ideas about what a 12-step program is, if you don't know, then, don't make judgments, because it's an incredible, a little bit of a faith-based program, right? There's a belief in higher power, and there's all these sort of inventory related steps, or actually, if you look at a lot of other types of programs, like taking personal inventory, like these are all really healthy things.
Right.
But one of them is this, step 12 is this idea of carrying the message, right? And helping someone else, right? Or being of service to others. And so there's this idea, through sponsorship, where they basically tell you, like my sponsor tells me, like, you're not allowed to say no.
Hmm.
Like, you're not allowed to say no to a service opportunity. You're not
Yeah.
allowed to say no to something that could
That's cool.
be an opportunity to serve someone else. And
Right.
and I think that's more so meant for Alcoholics Anonymous. Like, if someone were to reach out to me for help, like, I gotta say yes.
Yeah.
I gotta show up.
Yeah.
But I also kind of take that service idea into my life and say, look, if there's an opportunity to share my story, and I also had a little bit of a perception change, because sometimes we think that me giving my testimony, it's not about like serving my own ego. It's not about like me telling my story might help someone else.
Right.
And that's why we do it.
Right.
Right. Or
Yeah.
someone else hearing the fact that I've been able to achieve 13 years off of drugs and alcohol may go, well, if that guy can do it, maybe I can do it. Right.
Yeah.
So it's more so about, anyway, the whole point is, you asking me to do that and to share my story was something that I was told I'm not allowed to say no to,
That's cool, man.
if that makes sense.
I love
Oh,
that.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
So-
That's great.
And again, I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
Like there have been times when I have said no to things
Yeah.
based on other priorities or being at
Yeah.
a certain capacity. But a general rule is, if I can, I should.
Yeah.
Right. So
I love that, man.
Well, I mean, I definitely appreciate it.
it's a
'cause
weird way to. It's an answer this question, I think.
Oh, no, 100%. It
That's why
was
I said yes.
it was a better answer.
I said
Yeah,
yes
I
because
said
I felt
yes.
like I had to.
He had to. Okay,
Right?
that's fine. Hey, some people say yes and then
Had
they don't
nothing to
show
do
up.
with
So,
you. I'm just
Hey,
kidding.
you know what? You're here, so I don't even care.
Yeah.
Some people, I'll tell you, I'm gonna say it's another pet peeve of mine. Some people say yes to the podcast and then they don't show up.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing makes me more upset.
Yeah.
I like double check. Like, you guys good? Like, yeah, we'll be there. And then silence. And then I'm like, oh, okay, well, you lied to me
Yeah,
twice.
that's a bummer.
So no, you can
Yeah.
say like, I can't stand Josh. I didn't want to come back, but Trav's here. You can say whatever you want, man.
I'm here.
And you're here.
We're here.
He's
I'm
here.
fine
We're
with
together.
that. You didn't bail on us, and that's the main
Yeah.
thing. So no, I think that's awesome. Kind of switch gears a little bit. I something funny that happened with my daughter, and it kind of started off as something that was something I felt like I needed to do, and then it kind of turned into something kind of funny. But like we've talked about a couple of times, part of being a parent is the discipline thing, right? Like you have to have the conversations and say, okay, we don't do this because of this, we don't do that because of that. And so you have to have those tough conversations, especially when you have, multiple kids. Adds another element, another person. And it's like, my 3-year-old for no reason will just give the 1-year-old a shove. It's like, hey, see ya.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, we can't do that. And so there's these moments of correction. And so, I was feeling like, hey, one of the things I have my daughter do is like, okay, when I'm talking to you and if we're trying to correct something, I need you to look at me in the eyes and stay still while I'm trying to talk to you. Well, then I had this thing like put on my heart, like, okay, I need to make sure I do that when I'm encouraging her too. Like, hey, stand here. Let me look at you in the eyes and let me tell you, hey, I love you. I'm proud of you. So started doing that. There was this one morning I was teleworking, so I was getting the kids ready, and she was having a little bit of a rough morning. I said, okay, hey, like we can't do this today. We got to calm down. Let's chill out. Look me in the eyes. And then from that point, the next half an hour, she did amazing, getting ready, eating breakfast. And so as she was getting down from the breakfast table, I said, hey, come here. I said, hey, I just want to let you know that you're doing a really good job today. And I'm really proud of you. And I love you. And I'm looking her in the eyes. And so it was this really sweet moment. And then she takes her little hands and puts them on my shoulders. I had knelt down. She puts her hands on my shoulders and she looks at me and pauses. And she's like, headbutt, boom! And she just headbutted me right square in the forehead. I'm like, hey, I said, get out of here. You're okay. We're done for today. And now, is it my own fault? Yeah, it is. Because I showed her that when she was young. It was this thing where she hurt her head, right? And we try our best. And like, obviously, they can cry, but it's like, if I can prevent them from losing their minds when they're little, I'm like, I'm gonna do it. So she hit her head. I'm like, hey, it's like a headbutt, and she thought it was the funniest thing in the world. And so from that point on, I would do that. But then she thought it was funny to actually headbutt people. And my wife's like, hey, you can do that, daddy, but no one else, because there was one time, Paula, I know you're listening. That's my wife's mom.
Yeah.
She tried to headbutt grandma. It's like, no.
That's
That game doesn't fly with
great.
everybody. That's a daddy dollar game. You can headbutt me, but it just made me laugh because, like I said, it was this really sweet moment. I thought she was gonna like, Dad, I love you too,
Yeah, give
and
me a
then
kiss.
just straight across the forehead is
Love
headbutt.
it.
So I'm sure that you guys have moments like that with your kids where whether they're getting in trouble, and it's like, I think, Trav, you shared before where Melissa was talking to one of your kids and then they say something and you're like, okay, hide my face because I can't laugh. Like, I'm sure you've had the same thing. Like, do you guys have any stories like that of just silly fun things that your kids have done that's like, does this get any better? Like, this is amazing that they're in my life.
I don't have off the top of my head, not like a funny thing. There, I thought of this story though the other day. So last weekend sorry, I'm kind of going. I'm not answering your question fully, but he did something that was
That's
like,
all good. You're good, man.
last Saturday we started a flag football league. I coach both their teams. They play on two different teams. But my older son's team, which I thought we would be pretty good, we've lost our first 2 games.
Okay.
And my son, Brooklyn, he's 8 and he's in 2nd grade, and it's 2nd, 3rd, and 4th graders. So he's on the younger end, but he's gifted in football. He's a really good player, and he's my best player that I have out there. So trying to like use him, but not use him too much, so that we get guys equal opportunity out there to get the ball and
coach's
whatnot.
kid thing.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's a hard balance. But anyways, yeah, like we lost our 2nd game. It was a close game, and it like puts me in a funk. Like it gets me like, and he was in a funk too. Like we were just kind of like depressed the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And I'm really try to be good about like telling him good job. Like really encouraging him, telling him he played really well, and trying to tell him where he did good and things that he could have done better, but still being kind about it. And then I was putting him to bed at night, and I was just like, we prayed, gave him a kiss goodnight. He's like, hey, Dad, like right as I was leaving, I was like, yeah, man. He's like, hey, good job. And I was like, good job? What do you mean? He's like, good job coaching today, Dad.
Yeah.
And I was like, dang, man,
Yeah.
like it got me.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
those are those
That's cool.
moments that like, man, it shocked you, and what you're doing is benefiting them and their their purpose and just their life. So it was a blessing, but I don't know. Sorry to get emotional.
No, I know that's
okay.
That's good.
I was expecting to have it at some point, like all 3 of us just here sitting here crying.
Yeah,
There's still time. There's still time.
totally.
I love that story though, man.
No, yeah.
I was sharing a little bit with you, Trav. We had a kind of a tough week this week. Monday, we got in a pretty bad car accident. We were struck from behind.
You and your boy.
Just me and my son. Yeah, just the 2 of us. And I would, guess the lady was, on her phone, wasn't paying attention. She was probably going 45, maybe 50 miles an hour, and just hit us right from behind. And this is a little bit off topic, but I want to share, like, just as a dad, having an awareness around how he was affected in that situation, and then realizing that the connection that I built with him is really powerful. And I love what you said about, like, it's important to get on their level, and like kind of when you're disciplining, but also when you're telling them you love them and you're proud of them and they did a good job. Like, I love that, man. That's such a good thing to have an awareness of. So thank you for sharing that. But so my son, we got slammed. I got him out of the car instantly. We got off to the side of the road, and I imagine just what that must have been like, because the CHP and they're interviewing us, and then there's an ambulance and a fire truck, and it was a big accident. And so I took him to school Tuesday, and I just told the teacher, hey, we were in an accident Monday, and physically, we went to the doctor, like he's fine physically, but let me know if anything comes up. And about an hour and a half later, I dropped him off. I got home, and he called, or the teacher called. She said, hey, Blake, this is Miss Coyne, and Isaiah is really emotional. He's crying and he wants to talk to you. And so she puts him on the phone and he just says, Dad, um, I need to see you. I miss you. I need to come home. And he's crying, you know.
Yeah.
And so I think just again, a little bit off topic, but that was the thing with me that kind of had me think about, you know, this relationship that I built with him, and that there is some trust, and I do a pretty good job of like trying to really get on his level and encourage him and make sure he knows that he's loved, and I try and do that both with the discipline too. I'm not the greatest with the disciplining. Like, I need to get better about it. I need to hold my ground more. Like, I'm a little bit of a pushover sometimes, I think.
Yeah.
Like, I let him get away with stuff, and we're driving to swim lessons. This was maybe a year ago, and out of nowhere he says old lady pagina, and just changing the topic. So I just start like, I can't not laugh when he says old lady vagina. I'm sorry. So I don't even know where he got it, and so now
All right.
he's told me today, Dad, you're a vagina butt face, and I'm like, really, dude?
That's I might steal that. That's pretty
Like,
good.
and it's pagina with a P.
So it's fine. It's okay.
Yeah, so it's okay.
Dude, you have so many. I've heard so many stories of Isaiah.
There
So
should be a
funny.
book of
Yeah.
Isaiah isms. He
Yeah.
says
Not a bad idea.
some of the craziest things. And you also know what's really funny is the kids sometimes, I've been around some younger kids before, and sometimes they use words ahead of their years, but they use them out of context, right? Like, they use it in a way that doesn't make sense. But my son uses really difficult words like in the right context at weird times, and you're like, where did you even hear that?
That's crazy.
man.
Super smart.
He's a sharp kid, but I don't know. My son, I think we tell him that we love him a lot and that we're proud of him and we're very affectionate with him, and so I think he is that way with us and with other people, and it's really cool to see that, his teachers, other students. The other day, when we picked him up from school, sometimes they line the kids up before they go back into the class, and before we left school, Isaiah had to hug every kid in his class. Like, I had to wait there for him
Because he wanted to.
because he wanted to say
Wow.
goodbye
Okay.
and hug every
Yeah, I love that.
single kid. And then this is where the patience. I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
we gotta go, man. But then you're like, all right, dude, like,
Yeah.
I love that about you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
for
I
sure.
want to encourage that. I don't want to
Yeah.
discourage that.
Yeah.
And but it also, I told you this was early on in COVID, like, having a son who's very affectionate and like loving and wants to kiss everybody.
Yeah.
Really hard in the middle of an international pandemic. Like, really hard as a parent
Yeah, that
when you
makes
go to the
sense.
park and he wants to hug and kiss everybody. And
Yeah,
you're like,
yeah.
oh my God, Tony, I don't know, like,
Just put a catcher's mask on him. It's fine.
totally.
Yeah, you can only get so close.
Yeah.
Football helmet, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, that might be good.
That's good.
One thing I something sparked this in my mind when you were talking, just how you show up to school. Like, I think of someone like Blake, like, you're vice president of a massive company. You're running your own business on the as another job. Jen is, would you say she's more of a stay-at-home? I know she helps run the business.
She does, and she's still working 2 days a week part time. But
Oh, gotcha.
but-
Yeah.
but
yeah.
she has more time off of like a real job.
Right.
Than
No, I'm not trying to take any shade on her at all.
Yeah.
But I love your intentionality of getting up and taking him to school. Like most people in your position don't find that time, that opportunity to, it's a little gesture, just to get up and take him and drop him off to school. Like, I feel like that kind of thing means a lot to a kid, and he's calling you when he's scared and stuff like that. So it's like,
I love it. Yeah.
I love your intentionality of being present when you can and making opportunity, maybe when you don't have the time, but you find a way to do it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's really admirable. More dads could and should do it for sure.
It's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think I've learned that too. We sometimes tell ourselves we don't have time,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
But you can make time.
totally. Yeah.
Like, and certainly if there's meetings that come up,
Yeah.
and I think Jen and I do a really good job of
Yeah.
ham and egging each other, like tapping
Totally.
each other in when we need to. And if
Yeah.
I can, I will. And I enjoy it. And I think it's funny too. Like all the kids, they know Isaiah's dad.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
when I
gonna
like
say,
walk
yeah,
onto campus, they're like Isaiah's dad.
Yeah,
Like they
yeah.
see me coming in, and I think that's cool too.
Yeah.
Like I think it's cool that I know a lot of the kids' names, and
Yeah, I love that.
and we go to events. We had a pretty cool birthday party. Remember the Harry Potter party we
Yeah.
had, and to see all the kids in his class there.
Right.
So anyway,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
No, I think that's cool for a lot of different reasons. But I was thinking, like, I was gonna say, I can remember times when parents would be at my school when I was little, and you would say like, oh, it's that guy, that's that dude's dad, or it's that dude's mom. And you would hear it all the time, and you're that guy there, and it's a cool thing because that's going to, like you said, Trav, maybe inspire some other dads that
Yeah.
are there not doing that, or I hate to put this pressure on you, but I feel like you're a dude that would take this on and accept this based on what you just said. But your son's gonna have friends, and you may be the father figure at certain
Yeah.
points in certain kids' lives. We don't know what their situation is. We don't know what their background is. They may not have a dad. They may have a dad that's not present.
Sure.
And so you kind of take on that role. And I've even thought for myself, one day, way down the road, when my daughters get married. Like, I'm talking way down the road. There could be a situation where their future husband doesn't have a dad.
Right.
And so it's not like my job just stays with my two daughters. It's like, oh, I may have an opportunity to influence their lives as well. And
Yeah.
so it's like you can never really step off the gas, right?
Yeah,
Like you
for
gotta
sure,
keep going.
man.
So
Yeah.
I love the fact that you're known, your presence is known
Mhm.
on that campus, because I think it's gonna have not just a huge impact on your son, but
Mhm.
everybody else there. It could be a teacher. It could
Yeah.
be a teacher that's there. Some dude that's like, you know what? That dude is awesome. The way he shows up. I need to do
Yeah.
the same thing for my kids. Like you
Yeah.
just don't know who's gonna see it. And so I
Yeah.
think, really keeping that stuff in mind is important.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks,
Yeah.
That's
man.
good.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's cool.
I don't know how much time you guys have, but I'm good. I can keep going. Something I heard, and Blake, both of you guys, because of what you guys do and how busy you guys are, I'm just interested in hearing what your thoughts are on this. I heard, so with this podcast stuff, I try to make sure it doesn't, affect my daily life with my kids. Now that being said, it's the middle of the day. I'm not at home, so that may seem hypocritical right now.
Right.
No, I'm just kidding. But usually I try to, if I have to work on stuff, it's not while they're awake. I either do it at night or in the morning, because I think I heard Jocko Willink say something like, like, how do you figure out how to do all these things? Like, well, he's like, some people sacrifice everything to pursue their dream or their goal. He's like, I don't believe in that. He's like, if I want something, I'm not gonna sacrifice time with my family to get it. He's like, I'm gonna make time, whether it's I stay up really late, I wake up before everybody's up, like one way or the other, I'll make it happen without sacrificing any time with my family. And I feel like you guys have similar mindsets. Like I know, obviously, you're entrepreneur, super driven, Trav, all the stuff that you do at home and all the stuff that you do with your guys' business. How do you guys kind of make sure that you're still pursuing the things that you love doing, but at the same time not sacrificing time with your families and with your kids?
Listen, I'm really passionate about this, and I know it's I've heard all different ways that people think, and some people are morning people and some people are night owls. I feel, and I think I've said this to you before, Trav, like, people ask me all the time, like how do you do it all? Like, how do you do all the different things? And you keep, fitness is a priority, and you're still, present for your son and your wife. And I think actually my wife is probably the one that gets the shortest end of the stick, because sometimes we are so busy and I want to be there for him and work and provide, that sometimes I don't give my wife what she needs, whether it's some quality time or date night or whatever. So, but the best secret, you guys, ever is just early mornings.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know how to say it. Get up early. To me, like my school of thought, my thought on what you just said is get up early. You have a head start on the rest of the world. Everything is easier and faster, and it's quiet time. Like, I have the ability to get up, feed myself, go work out, set up my day, like work wise, what I'm going to do. And I get home and I still have time to make breakfast for my son, take him to school.
Yeah.
Right. And I've done all that already. I've done like the things that people have a hard time doing, right? Which is getting my day organized, exercising.
Right.
And that is what works for me. And I'm super passionate about that. And people say, oh, I'm not a morning person, I can't get up early. Like, BS. Like, just do it. Just try it. Like, try it. You'll never regret it. And again, I think that over the last, 10, 12 years, if I had to say, like, when people ask me, how do you do it? It's like, I just get up early.
Mm.
Yeah.
I just, and like I sleep better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm in bed
You do.
in bed at a decent hour. Like,
That's a good point.
so anyway, the hardest part is my wife is a night owl. So sometimes when she wants quality time, I'm gassed, because I've been up since 4:30.
Yeah, sure.
And I'm like pillow over the head, like I'm ready
Yeah,
ready to zone out.
pass
So
out, yeah.
that's the only downside. But I do think that my biggest secret is just get up early.
Yeah. No, I used to. I second that. I used to hate getting up early. Like I did it for my job. My job started at 6 a.m. my whole life. But then after I started doing the stay at home stuff, I would just get up when the kids would get up, and just it was actually COVID when I started waking up really early. It was funny because before that I would just get up when the kids would get up and try to find time to get an hour run or a 30-minute run in or something. But then I started training for Ironman, so I had to be very diligent about when I would work out. Like I had to try to schedule it in, and so I would get up at 5 a.m. Get a 2-hour workout in. Sometimes I'd bike an hour, then run an hour, right, like back to back, and get home when everyone's just waking up, and it's like it's the greatest.
Dude,
if
it's
you
the
can,
best.
Yeah.
There's literally zero downside.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Zero.
Totally.
Like there's nothing. There's no negative.
Yeah.
I feel better about who I am as a husband and a father. My
Yeah.
self-esteem,
Yeah.
what I accomplish in a day, like literally, it's almost to the point where like if I'm unable to do that, then my day doesn't feel as good.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
if I get up at 7:30, which is not late,
Yeah.
I get up at 7:30, it feels like something's missing.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I actually like that I've created that habit for myself, and it's the best.
Yeah.
Well, and you just said too, you created the habit, right? So
Yeah.
it's not like it's just like, hey, I'm just built this way, and I started doing this, and it's
Yeah.
like it was all good. It's like no, you do have to create it, And I agree. I think I think waking up early, it does feel good. Once you get into that rhythm, it does just make you feel better about everything.
It's like the first 15 minutes.
Yeah.
When you're up, like, you're a little groggy. Go get your coffee, do whatever
Yeah.
you have to do. But like, once you get past that, it's the best.
Yeah, I think you just stay moving, right? Because I know for myself, I'm really tired in the morning. If I sit down, it makes everything way harder. But if
Oh,
if
yeah.
I like you
So
said, get
true.
up, move around, exercise, whatever it may be, it makes things a lot easier for sure.
Don't get on the phone. Don't get up and get on the phone.
Yeah.
Right.
Get up, get your coffee, and get to what you were planning to do. Because
Yeah.
if you sit down on your phone, you're like, oh man, you could scroll for 30 minutes like
Totally.
that, and you're
Yeah,
like, gosh,
totally.
now I don't want to go. Or
Right.
I've done it.
100%.
That's how I know.
100%.
But when I don't get on the phone right away, it usually helps.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just like good habits for anybody. But I think
Yeah.
especially when you want to be your best as a parent, as a dad, I think those
Right.
are all great things. And some people, like you said, some people are gonna hear that and like, okay, cool,
Yeah.
cool, Blake. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
But and which is fine. You don't have to do that.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to do
Totally.
that. But it's gonna.
You
probably
can
affect
suck if you don't do that. You can just suck at life. That's
Yeah.
that's the alternative.
No, there's
You guys, what you said?
There's
If you're
been
cool with that.
times-
Yeah, you don't have to do it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times where I don't get up, or like there'll be times
Yeah.
when I don't get up early, but I'm committed to making sure I get my workout in. So I'll be like getting the kids to bed at 8 o'clock and like, hey babe, I got an hour run I gotta go do real quick, and
Yeah.
then I'm home at 9:30 or whatever, and then I can't go to sleep for like
Yeah.
another hour because I'm
Right.
all amped up. But
Right.
yeah, I'm committed. Like that's been a discipline of mine too that I'm committed to, and if I can't get it done in the morning, I try not to do that during the day. And there's times when I do it during the day when Mel's cool with it and it works in our schedules and whatnot. But I think just being disciplined and committed to the goal that I set out and just making sure it gets done in
Right.
the evening if I didn't get up early that morning or whatever. So
Yeah.
just
I'm
not-
gonna translate everything these guys just said. Don't be an old lady vagina. That's
Yeah.
pretty much what it comes down to. That's what they're saying. You can simplify that.
Dude, and then he puts spins on it sometimes.
Yeah.
Like sometimes he added stinky to it the other day. So it was stinky old lady vagina. I'm like,
that
bro.
takes it to a different level. 'cause
Yeah,
now it's
there's
like,
just more adjectives and
makes
Is
it
this
worse.
gonna have to be censored now, man?
we'll find out.
You might have to have
Oh,
it.
come
eat,
on.
right?
5-year-old
hey,
saying
not
vagina.
the first time. Not the first time.
Oh, good.
Yeah, no, we've had. It's fine. It's all good.
All right,
yeah,
good.
I like
What
to push it on
else?
this podcast. See where it can go. Like I said, this is not the Character Combine
Yeah,
podcast.
yeah.
So if anybody's expecting that,
Connectable.
turn it off.
This is connectable.
Connectable. We want to connect with people, and that's more my sense of humor, right, Jordan? That's how he's okay. My brother says some stuff on the podcast. I'm like, that's gonna be interesting when my mother-in-law hears it. like Blake, you had mentioned, you see things and you notice things that you probably wouldn't have noticed. I also feel like sometimes, just to be completely honest, I probably become more judgmental of other parents. Like I
Mhm.
said earlier,
Mhm.
I judge their laziness
Mm.
when it comes to how they interact with their kids.
Sure.
Like it just happens. Is it a good trait? I don't know, but it's what I do. So do you feel like you guys are a little bit like that too? Where, like you said, you did say you notice different things that you maybe wouldn't have noticed before, but do you like have, I guess, more, sometimes more compassion and sometimes maybe a little bit more judgment
Hmm.
towards other parents? Because I mean, I felt super compassionate about for parents that I've seen, like that have situations, whether they're a single parent, maybe it's a family that has kids with special needs. Like you always feel
Mm.
compassion for that, but when I became a parent, you realize how much more difficult
Sure.
that situation is. So, do you guys feel like that's changed your empathy or maybe your critical eye when it comes to how you see other parents?
Yeah, I mean, first, I want to say too, the other thing that am probably most aware of is music,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
Like just thinking about the thing, even songs that are on the radio and kind of what they're saying. So I do just want to add to your point on like movies. Yeah, movies is kind of a no-brainer, right? Like that guy wasn't thinking.
The Exorcist is a bad idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So movies definitely an awareness. I wouldn't say that I always like watch them all before.
Sure.
Um, but I think we're definitely having awareness around that. But music for sure.
Yeah.
Um, m- I've even changed a little bit what I listen to because even if he's in the car or not, just because I think about, well, like, okay, well, if I wouldn't want this for my son, then like, why am I okay with
Right, yeah.
listening
That's a
to
good
it?
call.
And I'm not always good about it, and sometimes
Yeah.
I still like music that has bad language and or maybe is a little aggressive or whatever.
Sure.
But definitely an awareness, and then I think as far as being judgmental of other parents. I mean, you mentioned
That may be too strong, but you guys get what I'm saying.
I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
think it's.
Critical.
I don't think it.
Yeah.
Yeah, critical.
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? I mean, just let's be honest. It is what it is. Um, yeah, it is what it is. I think sometimes you definitely I see parents doing things that I wouldn't necessarily do, and you kind of just have to stay in your own lane, I
Yeah.
guess.
Learn.
Which is
Learn
weird,
from
right?
'em.
Because especially you guys, Blake, you're a leader of your businesses. Like
Sure,
you're probably used to speaking up when you see issues within,
sure,
title. I'm sure there's
yeah,
not a ton of issues, but like when you
yeah,
see issues or things that could be improved, you're probably used to saying, okay, like you said, you're a go getter. It's like, okay, I need to go handle
Mm.
that problem.
yeah,
You can't really do that in those situations. You could, but you're kind of, like you said, stepping in a lane and stepping on someone's toes, and even if the intention's good,
hmm
you still fall on the wrong side. I think it feels inappropriate. And it's like I can't really do that, but
sure.
everything inside of you is like I want to say something so bad.
Yeah.
Or you
Hon-
just feel a lot of compassion too for the kids, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes when you see things that whether they're getting yelled or sometimes you see parents hitting their kids or slapping them or how they talk to them.
Yeah.
I think that's something that I've seen recently that is kind of
Sure.
hard to deal with when you see how people speak to their kids sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, and there's sometimes when we can be like, I see a parent doing something and I kind of go, yeah, okay, who knows what's going on or how their
Right.
day was.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I can see how that would happen.
Yeah.
But then there's other situations where it's like,
Yeah.
I don't really care what's going on with you. Like, that's never okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Swearing at your kids, calling them stupid, things like that you sometimes see. But
Kind of goes back to it often shows it gives a reason why the kid is acting the way they are. Like
oh yeah,
I think of like my kids, like my daughter has a kid in her class and he's just mean a lot of times. And she's like, I just don't understand why he's so mean. He says mean things to me. He says mean like he's just mean to everyone. Like I don't know why he's like that. I'm like, it's probably because of his house. Like I
yeah,
bet that's the way his parents talk to him. I bet he has a tough thing and or a tough life at home and it's translating into school and it's unfortunate, but
Yeah.
I don't have the answers to know how to deal with, someone like that, but just trying to do your best to be positive to him and encourage him when you can and staying out of his way and not being close to him if he's, being a problem to you. But come to find out his dad is in jail. His mom left when he was little. He lives with a grandparent.
Yeah.
And it's like not you kind of understand why
lot of
he's acting
anger
the way-
there.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a ton of anger. And
Yeah.
and so it's hard to judge kids like that. Like
Yeah.
I remember in Oak Park when we were working at Oak Ridge Elementary,
Yeah.
there was one kid that was always just a hassle, cussing and just like not
Yeah.
cooperating, not listening to anything I say. And at the end of one of our running club practices that we had, his dad, his backyard butted up to the field that we practiced at.
Oh,
And
I
his
remember
dad,
that. Yeah,
this
yeah,
big guy, and he's just yelling at him, calling him all kinds of names. And I'm like, good Lord, now I feel bad for any time I ever got mad
Yeah.
at this kid for not listening to me. Now I
Right.
understand why he's acting the way that he is. He's, crazy home life. So, you get a little more compassionate, get more compassion towards the kids, given the circumstances that they're living under. It's hard to succeed in that environment for
Yeah.
sure. So.
I do now. That's interesting. I do remember that very clearly now. That
Yeah.
situation. And I
Yeah.
remember. I can picture what the dude looked
Totally.
like now.
Yeah.
And the kid.
Yeah.
But one of the things this is how I remember it. So if this is wrong, just let me know. But
No.
one of the things I appreciate about that situation is, and you could have, as a dad at
Mhm.
that point of young kids, you could have barked back at him. You could have
Mhm.
said something. But if I remember correctly, you started having conversations. So anytime you saw that dude's head pop up,
Mhm.
Trav would say, "Hey man, how's it going?" And you started to see that the guy was, wasn't a horrible guy.
Yeah.
He was probably interacting with his kids in a horrible way, but he seemed like an okay guy
Yeah.
when he was having conversations with you.
Right.
And that's almost like the most powerful thing you can do in that situation. I mean, you're not going to fight the guy.
Yeah.
'Cause it's probably going to make it worse for the
Worse.
kid.
Yeah.
But if you can have that positive influence on him by just saying, "Hey man, how you doing?"
Right.
Having that conversation. So I always appreciate that you did that
Yeah.
because it is taking action without being intrusive, right?
Yeah.
It is taking action without stepping over the line or stepping out of your lane.
Yeah, those
So
are hard
yeah,
things
so I
to
always
know.
appreciate it about you, man, that you did that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
On the flip side of that, what you're doing to me right
He's
now.
like, I did later fight him. Like, what? I didn't know about that.
No,
You didn't see us in the parking lot.
I beat him up pretty bad. Like, oh, never mind. Ignore everything I just said.
No, on the flip side of that, when you see parents doing cool things, I think it's important to encourage that too. Like,
Yeah.
not just being critical of, parents not doing the right thing, but I feel like both you've always done that to me. You're always encouraging me when, you see, how I'm treating my kids or how I'm interacting with them. You guys are always encouraging. And I think when you notice that in parents, I think it's always important to encourage them to keep
Yeah.
going and keep doing.
Which is
good
like they
things.
say that with your kids, right? You want to encourage the behavior that you like,
Yeah.
so that hopefully they
Right.
do more of that
Yeah.
type of behavior. So I guess the same could be true with parents.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Specifically dads.
Yeah.
Like dads doing it to other dads. I
Yeah.
think that's important for sure. They
Yeah.
don't get that probably encouragement that they always need. So
Being a dad is tough. I think, maybe this might take this subject. It will be interesting to see where this goes.
All right.
I don't know if you guys feel this way, but sometimes as a dad, we're sort of last. Does that make sense?
yeah, it does.
Right? Like what we need or what we want, sort of is last.
Sure.
Right? Like it's
Sure.
the least important
Yeah,
sometimes.
definitely.
And it's not, certainly not always that way, but I think it's a tough thing. I don't know where I'm going with that. I just feel like it's something that maybe other dads experience, and so sometimes it's hard, to be always trying to give your best,
Yeah.
and then sometimes feeling like, certainly my kid doesn't care.
Yeah.
He's
Right.
like,
Yeah.
he's
Sure.
he's not thinking about like what I'm feeling or like
Totally.
what I need for my day.
Right.
He's 5.
Right.
Like,
Right.
I don't expect him to be thinking
Yeah,
about
yeah,
that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just another interesting, I think, dynamic or part of being a dad that is something that, for anybody that's maybe not a dad or
Yeah.
thinking about being a dad, like, something to think about, right? Like it's kind of can be challenging,
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Oh, 100%. Trev, do you want to go? You know, I can just go. But if you have any thoughts on that, go for
No,
it.
please do.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think that's, it's definitely something that can happen. And I think something that can happen, and I've seen it with other guys, is it feels like there's a pity party, right? Like they want to throw themselves a pity party. And because, they feel like they're not getting it. I even hate saying that because it just, I'll say this, a lot of credit to my mom. I always mention my mom a lot. And my dad was in the picture, and I love my dad. My dad would always show up, but he's not the most forward guy when it comes to conversation. But I had so many conversations with my mom. Even to this day, we talk about things as far as kids and life and marriage and all that. But I feel like because of the example she set, it really set me up really well for having kids and getting into marriage, because of the mindset she had, and she was so selfless. I tried to model that. I try to model that as much as I can. I don't always do perfect, but I try to, and I feel like that's helped me in those situations where I like to think that I don't have that feeling too often, where it's like, oh, why, like I'm last because of the example that she set. But again, I've seen a lot of guys that do it and they kind of sulk, and it's like, hey man, like you knew how this whole thing happened, right? Like you know how you got in this situation.
Yeah.
Like this is part of the deal. You know,
for sure.
I've always say becoming a dad has made me realize how selfless I can be and how selfish I can be. Like
Yeah.
it highlights both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's unfortunate. Like you would hope that it's like I can just be really selfless and just leave it there. But unfortunately, it's highlighted sometimes where I'm like, I'm just being selfish today. I'm arguing with a 3.5-year-old and I'm a 32-year-old man or 33-year-old.
Yeah,
Like
that's good.
what am I doing? But
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
you know, and something that you kind of. So my co-host Deb, she has another podcast, and we've talked about this before, but she's mentioned how sometimes people don't want to have kids, and that's okay. That's in fact I felt like that's a really important conversation to have. Not that it's always like things happen, right? Life happens. Sometimes you're not expecting to have a child, but it happens, and maybe you were saying I don't want any kids, and then it happens anyways. But if you have the choice and you're like I don't want kids, you shouldn't feel the pressure to have kids because other people are saying that, because the weight of that responsibility is so heavy. If you have one foot in and one foot out, you are going to do a disservice to your family, to your children. Like it's not a game, in my opinion, you can play.
Yeah.
You either have to decide, like, if I'm going to have a kid, I've got to jump into it if I want to. And if I don't want to, don't feel guilty that you don't, because it's too important of a job to just do because other people make you feel you should. So why did I say that? I don't know. Something you said made me think about that, but it's like, I think it's a really important job, and you got to, if you do it, if you go down that road and you choose to, you got to buckle up and just say, okay, life's about to change, and I gotta get after it. You know.
Yeah.
There's I just saw it again today, but it's old. And you guys will probably know this, but there's a Kobe Bryant interview, and he's talking about the sort of commitment that he made to himself. He's signed up for I signed up for this training plan, and like I'm not I don't remember what he
Non-debatable.
said. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not debating with myself. Or
Yeah.
like I'm not I'm not arguing with myself.
Right.
Like I signed. Like
Yeah.
I basically he didn't
Contract.
physically sign a contract,
yeah,
but
yeah.
he made a contract to himself that this is what he was going to do. And
Yeah.
I don't know what you just said, just kind of made me think of that. Like as a dad, like
It's all in.
that's probably the most serious thing that you could sign up for, right? Like
Yeah,
you're
Oh, yeah.
raising another human
Right.
Yeah.
to live in a difficult, like there's a lot of challenges in this world and things to navigate. And I think it's probably even getting more and more complex,
Yeah.
as time goes on. And so, that's a good reminder, like the selfish and selfless. I was at I go to a men's group on Thursday nights, and so this was just last night, and a buddy of mine was talking about needs versus wants, and how his life is better when he can choose what he needs to do versus what he wants to do. And I thought it was a really simple way to like articulate. He's like, yeah, in the moment, it's tough because you're choosing between something that you would rather do versus something that you should do.
Right.
But I thought it was this really cool conversation. And so sometimes I feel like as a dad, I feel like I do pretty well at choosing like what needs to happen for my son and for my family versus like what I want to do. Cause I don't know, I don't know. There's definitely more what needs to happen, right? Versus what I want to do.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I think that's where the selfish and selfless come in. I don't know if that makes sense, but
No, that's
Yeah,
good.
100%.
That's-
what I was thinking about.
No, that's
really
great.
good.
I love that, man. Like I said, I want to be respectful of your guys' time, because I could honestly, this is a great conversation. I could do this for like 3 hours, but I'm not gonna do that to you guys
Yeah.
or my brother who's standing there, or the listener. But one thing, this is kind of taking it like a lighter note. So I have, like I said, I have 2 daughters. You guys both have sons. Trav, you also have a daughter. But like if we're looking specifically at the dad-son relationship, a lot of times I've heard people that have sons talk about this idea that at some point those little dudes are gonna want to fight you, right? And there's that like passing of the guard, right? Where it's like, today's the day I'm gonna take dad out. Are you guys? I mean,
got a good story. Yeah.
oh, perfect. No, please. Yeah.
I
I
got
was
a good story.
who was I telling? Dr. Raymond. I have an incredible chiropractor that I was seeing for the accident.
Yeah.
And he's also a dad. and has an amazing relationship with his son. I really admire the stuff that he does with his son. And we were actually talking. This was this morning, and I said, I had this really cool moment with my son. We were laying in bed. I think, sometimes throughout the day we'll just go put on a show, and we're gonna take a half hour to just kind of mellow out. And it's just amazing the things that go through their minds. Like, I'm sure if you could really go back, you would remember that time that Brooklyn said this or that Ella said this thing, and you go like, where did that come from? Like the things that pop into their mind. And so we're laying in bed, and Isaiah goes, he goes, Dad, and he has this like really concerned look on his face, and I'm like, yeah, what's up, dude? And he goes, we haven't wrestled in a long time. And then just stands up and like body slams me. And I'm like, what? What
That's
made
awesome.
him just think? But he was like, you should have seen the look on his face. He was
It's like
like,
it's go time.
we haven't wrestled in a long time. Let's go.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, it was cool. So
Yeah.
in terms of like the passing of the guard, my son's definitely feisty. He's
He's coming
definitely
for you.
He's definitely competitive.
Yeah,
I gotta keep in good shape.
I think so.
Well,
Well, he's got a long way to go because you're in great shape, man, and you're a monster. So
I don't know.
he's got to catch you when you're injured. That's what it is.
Yeah,
He's got to
yeah.
think about this.
Well, so I think about, this just and talking about my dad briefly, I
Yeah.
think a very unique relationship with my dad. He was an alcoholic most of my life, and went to jail for, a little bit of time that I was in high school. But when you hear that initially, you probably think, okay, well, maybe he wasn't very present, or maybe he was violent or whatever. But my dad was honestly incredible in a lot of ways. He was always either coaching or was the waymaster of all my Pop Warner football games. He never missed a football practice. He provided, he worked for most, most of my life as a kid. And so, yeah, he had some rough patches, but I never questioned his love for me or like his commitment to me. It was just a little bit different than most dads. But one of the things that I know that he regrets and that I regret a little bit is my dad had some injuries when he was young, a knee injury, had a horrible knee surgery. I mean, this was in the 70s, right? So
Sure.
this technology was different and things were different.
Right.
Had a horrible knee surgery, another knee surgery, and that transitioned to some issues with his hip. So by the time he was in his early 40s, he had a knee and a hip replacement.
Oof.
And so I just remember he couldn't run with me. He couldn't get out and like throw the ball and all those kinds of things. And so I think about that. Like I knew I always wanted to be a dad and always wanted to be sort of like a young and active dad because I still got to show him who's boss. I still
Yeah.
got to let him know, like,
For sure.
hey, your old man
100%.
can get down.
Yeah.
Just watch yourself. But I can't have injuries. You
Yeah.
gotta stay healthy. So
100%. What about you,
good.
man? Are they coming? You have two boys.
Yeah.
So
No, I.
dude, Jude's coming for you, bro.
Yeah, Jude's
gonna
Jude's
take
my
you out.
feisty one, man.
Yeah.
He's a wild little guy, but yeah, no, I haven't ever thought of them trying to take me out when I'm older. They try to take me out now. They'll team up on me for sure. Like
Yeah.
we have a trampoline in the back, so that's like their time to try and get me. But I'm rough with them too, man. I'll put them on. I'll put them
in their place.
Yeah. I let them take cheap shots at me all the time too, but
that's fun.
I don't mind roughing them up a little bit. But yeah, no, I don't. I guess it's nothing I completely worry about. But I'm with you. Like I always want to be able to be active with them for sure. Like as I growing up in high school, I'd love to be able to still be able to run routes with them or play
Yeah.
basketball with them. My son plays. He asked me to play 1-on-1 with him every day, like after school. Like in
That's
basketball, we
awesome.
have a little hoop in front of our house. So
Yeah.
like I want to be able to do those things, So
Yeah.
being active and being healthy is important for sure.
Yeah.
And I
absolutely.
know my dad wishes, that he could have
Oh,
done
yeah,
more
of
of that
course.
because he
Yeah,
saw
yeah.
me play sports and,
Yeah.
was always present. But I know he wishes he could have run
Definitely.
around with me a little bit.
Yeah.
That's my dad too. My dad was always in great shape. He's in his 70s now, but he's always been in really good shape. He still tries to play spike ball with us every once in a while. It's not the same. It's kind of like
Yeah.
who gets dad today, but
No, I
you know what I
get it.
mean. Like,
Yeah,
you gotta do a lot of running, make up some ground. but but it's cool though. Even at this age, he's still willing to play with us. And we're like at the beach, and he wants to play spike ball on like family
That's cool.
vacations. Like, and I remember back in the day when he was coaching baseball, like he was pretty fast, and some of my teammates would be surprised at how fast he was and how strong he was. It's like, hey, that's kind of a cool thing that he's still able to do this. Where you have other parents where for whatever reason they're in situations physically where they can't do that. But there was a story. The whole reason I thought of this question is I heard a story from a comedian. His name's Josh Wolf, and he was telling a story about him and his brother getting to this point when they were teenagers. They were at home, and it's like, you know what? His older brother was like, "Hey man, today's the day. I'm gonna fight Dad." And he's like, "All right, man.
Today's the day.
Today's the day.
I'm ready to go."
He's like, "All right, man." He's like, he was joking about like they were like smashing pictures. It's like Lord of the Flies. Like, let's get him.
Yeah.
And so he said both went out to the backyard, and their dad was sitting there on the patio in a lawn chair, smoking a cigar and drinking a beer. And he's like, "Hey, old man, I'm gonna fight you." And the dad stood up. He put his beer down. He put his cigar down. Kicked the kid in the nuts, crumpled to the ground. He looked at the other guy. He's like, "You still want to fight me?" He's like, "No, I think we're good today. I think we're good."
Awesome.
So it's just kind of a funny story. But I thought of that, like, all right, well, you guys both have boys, and it could happen with my daughters. They might like, you know what, we're gonna fight Dad today. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of a fun, all jokes aside, it's like a fun thing. Like when you say like your son wants to wrestle with you, like that interaction, just that like human touch, right? Like he values that, and he's like, it just hits him sometimes. Like, hey, we haven't done this again, pops.
Yeah.
It's time to wrestle. So I love that. That's cool, man.
On another note, like it's funny because I feel like oftentimes like athletics like has always been a part of me and
Sure.
like my growing up. Like I've always loved athletics. That's the way I was raised, and my boys are both athletic, and it's easy for me to interact with them that way, and I always want to be able to do that. But I think there's a lot of times that athletics aren't that certain families thing, right? So like finding what it is that your kid thrives in, and being able to be there for that. Like Jude, my youngest, he's really athletic and likes playing, but he also loves to draw, and like so he'll ask me almost every day, "Dad, will you come draw with me?" And it's like, that's the last thing I want to do right now is draw. But I'll draw with you, man. Like, so I think just being able to be, whatever it is that your kid is into, being able to do that with them is important. I don't want to be just strictly like athletic dad, like,
Sure.
And I think
That's
there's
good.
not a lot of, there's probably a lot of dads out there that athletics isn't their thing, and
Yeah.
I have a feeling you're in for some tea parties.
Yep, you are.
Oh
man.
yeah, I had a dress on my head the other day. Yeah. It's like, hey,
Hey,
it is what it is. Yeah.
gotta do
Yeah.
what you gotta do. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm with. That's a good point to make,
Yeah.
Trav, because
Yeah.
it's only, the physical thing is only kind of one aspect, right?
Yeah,
and
for
you want
sure.
your kids to be well rounded.
Yeah, definitely.
And Isaiah likes to draw too.
Yeah.
I'll spend some time drawing.
That's
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, it's
It's
fun.
fun. I like.
Yeah.
I like
Art, crafts.
it.
Like you
Yeah.
get back to doing things that you're like, man, I remember like drawing
Yeah.
in my notebooks or just like
Yeah.
things that you did in school. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's good.
That's good. Well, yeah, and our daughters love to do that stuff too. Our
Yeah.
littlest one's still a little young for it. She tries. She doesn't bang in the marker against the paper, but they love the art stuff. I still have to watch out for the headbutts. Like that's still that will come out of nowhere. But I think what you said, man, is important because I mean, how many, we're not going to name names, but how many times have you met people and their story with their dad or with their parent is that they had such a passion. Their parent had such a passion for this one area, whether
Right.
it's some artistic thing or whether it's sports, and it had a negative impact on the relationship because it almost felt like, hey, my worth to my mom or my worth to my dad
Right.
is attached to sports. If I'm not on the field, if I'm not on the court,
So true, man.
we don't really have that much of a relationship because everything was poured into that. And it comes from a place of passion for that person, but it's almost misplaced in my opinion. It's like
Yeah.
you place too much passion on the sport and not enough passion on the relationship with your kid. And you could have done both,
Yeah.
but you just place too much on the sport or the whatever activity it might be.
Yep.
And then you hear all the time, it's like, yeah, I just felt like I didn't have much value outside of playing football.
Right.
Like my dad was there on Friday nights,
Yeah.
but that's the only time he showed up.
Yeah.
And he wanted to ask me questions about sports, but that's the only time he really cared.
Yeah.
And I think that's where, having that balance and doing the things that they want to do, not just the things, that you love
Totally.
doing is really important. That's where you get the, the people that are trying to live out their glory years to their kids, right?
Yeah.
Or I think the sad part of that is it probably comes from a real place of insecurity,
Oh,
right?
for
Yeah.
sure.
Travis said, like, drawing is probably the last thing that he wanted to do, but like, it's not about you,
Yeah, totally.
Right.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like,
for sure.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
out of that and going, like, yeah, sure, dude,
Yeah.
I'm gonna draw with you or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of things that maybe Isaiah wants to do that in that moment I don't want to do,
Yeah.
but I think maybe with other dads or other stories like that, it's because I think naturally as men, we uh, feel we don't like to do things unless we're good at it.
Sure.
In some cases, right? Like if
Yeah,
I know I'm not good at
100%.
something, I'm less likely to
Yeah.
want to do that thing.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I think that happens and can translate into being a father, because like as a dad, if I'm not good at making the voice for the stuffed animal that my son wants me to like,
Yeah. Yeah.
Dad, will you be the, he always, like when we read every night. I love to read with my son, but he wants me to read. He wants the animal.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the dinosaur, sometimes it's a turtle, whatever. He wants me to read like in that voice. And I'm like, dude, like
Yeah.
that's not like I'm not a voices guy, but you know what, like, but I do it,
Yeah.
So, but I think some of that comes from this
you do it
insecurity
right
of
now?
like,
Yeah. Wait.
no,
I'm just teasing.
no,
I'm
don't
teasing.
make me be
No,
the
no,
turtle.
I'm
or
not a
the-
voices guy.
Or the chippy ear, My
Oh.
wife and Jen's mom are amazing with the voices.
yeah.
They're really good with the
Yeah.
voices.
That's good.
That puts you on the spot, though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not doing it, guys.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I wouldn't either.
Yeah, I'm
See,
not
my
doing
kid, like Jude, will get like he'll ask me to do something like that, and I'll do it, and he'll be like getting mad at me for doing it wrong. I'm like,
Yeah.
gosh, I'm trying, but I don't know.
Yeah,
Oh.
that's always the worst. I know when you get scolded by your child, because I remember there was a point. It was maybe a year ago. Like I said, our oldest loves like Pixar movies and loves Toy Story. And there was one time where I started a movie for her, and it was getting a little bit late, and so I'm like, okay, she's not gonna be able to finish this movie. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna skip ahead while she's not looking, and I skipped ahead like 15 minutes. And so she came in, and she'd look at the screen and look at me, look at the screen. She's like, no. She knew, and then she did this,
That's
and
good.
she was like 2 at the time. She's like, no. Pause the movie, take it back, and start it again. Like, what is this? The whole thing. I was like, all right, well, you caught me. Here we go, play from the beginning. And so
Start
it's
at the
like,
beginning.
yeah, it's like, but like you said, it's like, hey, you're not doing this right. It's like, okay, I
Yeah.
know. And then you start feeling bad. It's like, I know, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I've done that with story time too.
Yeah.
Skip a
Like
page.
when you
Skip
turn
a
the
few
page,
pages?
like
oh,
just,
definitely. I've done that a handful of times, man.
and he catches me.
Yeah.
He knows. No. I know.
Yeah.
Because you think they're not listening,
Yeah,
right? So like,
Yeah.
you seems like you're not listening,
Yeah.
and then I skip a few pages,
Totally.
and he calls me out.
So true.
It's the worst. It makes me laugh, but it is the worst. It's just
Yeah.
like, all right, well, I'm not as smart as I thought. Like, I'm definitely the dumbest one in this house.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
totally. Right. Last again. There you are.
Not even close. I'm clearly the dumbest one in this
Yeah.
house. So, man, that's awesome. Well, before we get out of here, I have a bunch of other thoughts, but I'm not going to share them because we've been here for a while. Any other final thoughts you guys want to share? Any words of wisdom or encouragement that you guys want to share with maybe some dads out there, or like you guys had mentioned, guys that maybe are thinking about becoming dads or are on their way, like maybe their significant other is pregnant and it's
Sure.
coming down the road for them pretty soon. Any thoughts as we kind of celebrate dads on this Father's Day coming up?
For me, I would just say keep showing up and keep making that commitment to yourself that you're going to do better and that you can do better. And I think oftentimes we're actually a lot harder on ourselves as dads than what you may appear to be. So, keep showing up and keep trying to be better, keep learning, keep growing as a dad, keep listening to podcasts that are trying to tell funny dad stories and help each other out and find other good podcasts that you might be able to grow personally. And I think oftentimes our bad relationships with our kids, if you have bad relationships, I think oftentimes it's reflecting on insecurities in yourself, like you were saying earlier. So I think just really trying to grow and be a better person and learning it, I think helps is very beneficial. I've done that a lot the past couple years when I've been in hardships with my wife and just trying to learn and grow from different podcasts that I find valuable, leadership podcasts and just self-reflecting ones that have helped me, I feel like, in the past. And I feel like it helps me grow as a person and as a dad. So I feel like working on yourself is the most important thing. And I think the relationships come after that too.
Yeah, that's great.
It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a lot of thoughts, but let's see if I can summarize. So one thing that I did when Isaiah was, maybe one, was I made him a Gmail account.
That's dope. That's
And
yeah.
and so I spent a lot of time on my computer for work, and so Isaiah has a Gmail account, and I try and make it a point. I've been a little bit off lately, but I did send him a good kind of summary last night, um, based on just the accident and some
Sure.
photos and like how he reacted, and so I try and send my son emails.
Yeah, that's cool.
And so there's two things that come from that. One, I think it'll be cool someday that he'll have some photos and things to look at. But then
Right.
the other thing is, for me, it's an opportunity for me to really reflect and think about
Mm.
how I've been as a father and how he's been and how he's developing. And so there's something right about like putting it on paper,
Mhm.
Definitely.
typing it, writing it, thinking about it,
Mhm.
that makes it real, right? And like helps you to kind of connect with it. Um, so I think that has been kind of a helpful thing. And I was, birthdays,
Yeah.
right? Things like that. Like it's good to put, but even more on the regular, it's
And I
all right.
love
I'm going to
that.
send my son, an update. What are some things that I think are important to talk about?
Yeah.
What he likes or how he's acting, and also makes me think about like, okay, who have I been as a father to him lately?
Right. Yeah.
So I think that's cool. The other thing I want to say is like don't don't underestimate sometimes the non-events. Like as a dad, we want to like do the events and the activities and the things, and we're gonna go places, we're gonna trip, and
Right.
we're gonna play sports. But sometimes like I've noticed it's the smallest things that have the greatest impact on him, or
So
that he
true.
has the greatest memories around. Like could be the littlest,
For
like
sure.
in our backyard, we got these concrete stepping stones, right? And I know this is a memory for him because after it rains, we went out one day and he put his boots on and we were flipping them over and we were digging for worms, right?
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
that was the simplest,
Totally.
kind of a little bit of an annoying thing to do because we're getting muddy and whatever.
Sure.
But like that was such a fond memory for him. And now every time it rains, he's like, Dad,
Yeah.
can we go hunt for worms?
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, he really dug that. So I
Yeah.
think,
Yeah.
as a dad too, don't always feel like you got to do the
So true.
things, the crazy things. Like sometimes it's just finding something that he likes and doing what he wants to do. If he wants to
Yeah,
get
so
dirty,
good.
let him get dirty. If he wants to, sometimes I even find like I become crotchety at the park because like I don't want him to play in the sand
Yeah.
because the sand's dirty and it gets sand in the car. And I'm like, dude, why
Yeah.
am I like,
Yeah.
he's a kid. I gotta let him be a kid. So,
Yeah. No, it's
so
good.
there's that, and then I don't know. I think those are
Those are great.
kind of couple things I think about. Like I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves,
Right.
and sometimes it's just the quality time that really matters.
Right.
Doesn't have to be about the big fancy toy. In fact, he ends up liking the stick that we like tape
Yeah.
a washer on the end of, and it's
Sure.
a wand.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like we just made it out of garbage,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
sure.
And so there's some of that too. So
I love that. You told me that Gmail account thing on one of our runs recently, and
yeah,
man, I want to do that. That was a really cool idea.
you can start anytime. It's
I
never
know.
too late.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
things
need
happen
to.
all the time. And I
Yeah.
just last night he went to bed and I went into the computer and I was like, yeah, I
Yeah.
should share this with him. One, because I was proud of how he reacted.
Yeah.
It was a very stressful time,
For
and I feel
sure.
like he was like he handled it better than the lady in front
Yeah.
of us.
Yeah.
And and two, I just thought like, all right, this is a life event for me and for him, and maybe he'll look back at that and go, whoa, dang.
Yeah.
And I had some cool photos of him. The chiropractor is amazing, by the way. So the chiropractor saw him and had him doing some different activities that completely changed his mood. I mean, my son was
nice.
Really.
just laughing and having a really fun time.
Yeah.
And so I had a photo that captured a moment of him laughing with my friend, and so I sent him that in an email too.
That's awesome.
And
I love that.
yeah,
It's amazing, man.
Yeah.
good way to capture memories and then reflect on it. Like I did
Yeah.
a lot of writing in my early recovery, and I feel like there's something about putting it on paper
Love
that's really important.
Yeah.
I wish I did it more, honestly. Wish I wrote more.
I think that's a good thing for anybody to think about, because we this is maybe a handful of episodes ago. We had an author. Her name is Deborah Peebles, and she wrote this. It's like a 25-page book. It's really thin. It's almost like a guide, but it's called A Letter to My Son, and it's not just letters to sons, but it's sons, daughters, and then also bonus children as well. And the conversation with her was amazing because it was this very thing that you're talking about, where you can say these things and it's really impactful, but if you put it down on paper, at some point in life, your kids will get that and realize, oh, he actually sat down and typed this. He actually sat down and wrote this. And that extra level of effort and thought that goes into it when you have to put it on paper that I think they're going to really appreciate at some point. And so it's cool that you said that, because we actually had an episode a lot about that topic and how important that was. So yeah, I think that's incredible. I love that you do that Gmail thing. That's really cool.
It's really cool.
Yeah. I think the last thing I'll say, I'll keep it short, but something my mom said on the interview I did with her and my wife on Mother's Day was this idea of apologizing, being willing to apologize to your kids. And I think some people, probably take on maybe more of an authoritarian figure. It's like, you just do what I say and that's it. But there's a lot of value in them seeing you apologize,
Definitely.
not just like seeing you apologize to maybe your spouse or to other people, but also them being on the receiving end of an apology, like, hey, I didn't handle that well. Daddy shouldn't have done that. So, will you forgive me?
That's
I think
great.
there's a lot of, again, I can't, that's a stolen thought from my mom. But it really, ever since she said that, really stuck with me, because I would think back at times that she would apologize to us and you think, okay, that was cool. But then as you get older and you have kids, you realize, oh, there's a lot of power in seeing the person you look up to apologize to you and create that, because it makes you really realize that, hey, we might have a really tough time, but it's always going to come back around to us apologizing to one another, and things will be right again. We just have to figure it out. And so I think if they see that at a young age, that's a really powerful thing. So I think, it might be tough for some dads. Like we've said, some of the more emotional things are tough, but you just gotta kind of man up and do it. Like, I mean, there's really no excuse not to.
Yeah,
you know what
it's
I mean?
massive on the child's growth, I'm sure, and
Yeah.
what that does for them long term.
And it sets such a great example.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Such a great example.
Yep,
Really
for
good.
sure.
I like
Shout out, Mom. That's for you.
Good,
Good
good move, Mom.
Yeah. Look at that. So where can they follow you guys on social media? Are you back, Trav?
I got back. Yeah,
He's
I'm
back.
on it a little bit, but not as much. I still try not to be on it too much, but I am.
It's not a great place. It's fun, but it's not always a great place.
Yeah,
So I get it.
Yeah. Trav _Cole_.
Perfect. Go follow him.
Yeah,
go follow him.
sure.
Blake.Kidwell. And then we have Title Boxing Ice Blocks, which is also a cool place to see some fun activities and events. We have a fundraiser coming up on June 18th for one of our coaches' son, who is we're raising a little money to help send him to junior amateurs, where he's hoping
Isaac.
Isaac
Coles. Yeah.
Yeah.
You remember? I don't know if you were there when
He's
he was at Oak
awesome.
Ridge.
I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. He's.
How do you know him?
So he was. I think it was after you stopped doing the run club stuff.
Okay.
His son went to Oak Ridge Elementary School while I was doing running clubs, and his son was a beast of an athlete. Was just like doing laps with other kids, and this dude would just always come out and help.
His son's name is Isaiah.
Yes. Yep.
Which is my son's name. It's
Which-
one of the
which is
ways
cool.
that he and I connected when
Yeah.
he was training out of a different gym.
Very cool.
We just had a conversation. I think somehow he saw me in passing and was talking about my son, and then he saw the tattoo of my son on my arm, and his son's Isaiah. And so anyway, he and I really hit it off.
Amazing
and,
guy.
Amazing dad.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. We interviewed him not too long after you. Yeah. He's just an incredible guy and super passionate about everything he does. But man,
super articulate and passionate, and
he's great with the kids
he's
too.
A great friend.
Yeah.
I really care about that guy.
That's
He's
awesome.
good.
Yeah.
So anyway, the fundraisers for hopefully at some point, I know a passion of his is to go to the Junior Olympics.
Yeah.
For boxing, so it'll be an opportunity for us to get some people there, and we'll do a little fundraiser and shout out for him. But
yeah,
anyway.
get Puma there.
Yeah,
get Puma there.
Get Puma there, man. Get Puma there. Donate.
And so you said that's the 18th.
June 18th, Saturday.
June 18th.
Saturday,
Perfect.
8
So
a.m.
this will come out. Next Tuesday, which is the 14th.
Nice.
I don't know. We're always looking at like the 14th, guys.
Yeah.
I have no one knows.
Yeah.
So this will actually come out that week before that Saturday.
Sweet.
So
Yeah.
and they can donate up until that point.
Yeah, they can donate. They can even come out and watch. He's gonna teach a class, and then he's gonna do a media workout. So we'll have some
cool.
media there. So he'll do a little workout for the news.
Awesome.
You can kind of see him, and great kid. He just recently did a little interview.
Yeah.
Just with Isaiah.
Awesome. He's an amazing kid.
Good kid, man.
Yeah,
really,
cool.
really good kid, and he's a good runner. I remember I went out and ran with them at Land Park.
Yeah.
And yeah, good kid.
Super
Just-
good.
Just I smoked him, but he was a
Yeah,
good,
yeah.
he was a good kid.
I did not when we were playing Sharks and Minnows. He smoked me. That's embarrassing as the leader of the group.
I mean, this is more distancing. We didn't sprint or anything, but
Man.
I think he was surprised at what this
Right.
old guy had in the tank.
Doesn't matter. He'd still smoke me. I know that for
Yeah.
a fact.
Yeah.
I'm not you.
Yeah.
But no, so definitely you guys go support that. Go follow these guys. Every once in a while, I'm going to be honest, we'll start this or end the same way we started. Sometimes these guys post shirtless pics. And so
I don't, man. This guy.
No, I don't.
No, you don't. But every now and then I'll
It's-
see you
They
without a shirt
somehow
on.
they happen. from
It's
time
worth
to
looking
time.
at.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. And just say this.
If I
you're
had
hoping-
Travis's tan, sorry, I interrupt you again.
No, it's good.
Travis's
That's good.
tan.
I know. And his legs, I don't want to be weird, man,
Oh,
but your
man.
legs are very nice.
They
Can I say
are.
that?
They're just shaven. That's
They're
why.
so
man.
nice.
Yeah. Yeah, super nice. So
Uh,
that being said, maybe there's a shirtless pic, maybe there's not. I don't know. But if you're hoping that there is, follow these guys, and you might just get that. Don't follow me because
This actually was a topic I was going to bring up
the shirtless part.
because there was this. There was
Okay.
there was this trend
Okay.
that people were talking about, the dad bod.
Yeah.
Right. And so I have a really hard time with that trend because I feel like it's bad. Like we shouldn't glamorize unhealth
Sure.
as fathers. So again,
Sure.
I don't want to take us to a deep topic, but I was just saying like there's nothing cool about a dad bod.
Yeah.
Right? It happens. I get it.
It does
happens,
happen.
Right? Life is busy and it's difficult to find time to exercise, but I
Yeah.
want to be the anti-dad bod.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Opposite of the dad.
Yeah.
I like that. I feel like the whole time you were looking at me, which I
No,
I know
no,
it's being
no,
said.
no.
You didn't look at
No.
Trav. I know
Hey,
what's
you
going on
said
here.
You look good.
No,
coming in
yeah,
here.
Yeah,
you
but
look
you
great.
know. Okay,
Yeah.
fine. Keep going, guys.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
100%. That was the first thing I said when I saw you. I'm like, you look
I
awesome.
know,
Thank you, man. That's why I wear
Yeah.
certain shirts to make me seem slimmer.
Yeah,
My wife's
awesome.
like, "Don't let this get to your head.
Yeah.
You go run some more." But no, I
Nice.
appreciate that, guys. I appreciate you guys taking the time away from your families and all the other things, responsibilities that you guys have to do. It's been a lot of fun. We'll have to do it again sometime.
Thanks
Love
for
that.
having
It's been a
us,
great
man.
conversation.
Happy Father's Day to all the fathers.
Yeah,
out
Yes,
there.
Father's
happy
Day.
Father's Day to you guys. We appreciate you and keep doing your thing. Keep inspiring other dads.
Yeah.
A lot of good comes from it. So keep up that great work. So you guys can follow us at Connectable Pod on Twitter, Connectable Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all of the podcast outlets. Make sure you guys go subscribe, give us a 5-star review. We would definitely appreciate it.
Mhm.
And until next week, you guys take care and happy Father's Day.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching the show. If you enjoyed that episode, make sure you like it, share it, and hit the subscribe button to get a new episode every week. We'll see you next time on the Connectable Podcast.